Yeah, hello everyone. How are you doing? How's your week? How's your week been? How was your Monday? Your Monday and your Tuesday. God, man, it is okay. I don't mean to sound all conspiratorial on y'all. I swear to God, HARP. HARP. The whole. I don't know if you know your conspiracy theories very well. HARP. That was the one that controls the weather. I think that shit was real, and I think Trump shut it down because it has not gone above the mid-60s in May so far. In May, it has not gone above the mid-60s. Like, all of our highs over between today and tomorrow in May are in like the mid-60s.
Hello there.
We have not had a day in the 70s all month, and we are officially, like, basically we're in summer now. So yeah, I don't know what's up. I'm starting to think that weather control shit was real, you know? But hello everyone, how you doing? How you doing, Noah, Keen, Super Jesse, Megumin, and Alec, and Sir Lord Baron, hello to you too. You can't believe Trump has it out for Flint Lockwood SMH. It's in the 70s for you? Yeah, yeah, it's like, it's been temperate. It hasn't been like stupid hot the way it's been the past couple summers. Like this, we've had the first winter and summer since he took office. And I've been saying this. He takes office, we get a cold, snowy winter, we get a mild summer. I think something's up. Hey, Lord Cavan, how you doing? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Oh man, right. So the itinerary for today. The main thing I will be doing. Okay. So well, he's not really an old buddy. I've never respected the man. Luetin09, famous 40K lore YouTuber, which basically means he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, came out with a video about the new Imperial Guard vehicles, and it was actually so bloody stupid. I have to watch it with y'all. I just have to. While that's going on, I'll be playing Dune Awakening in the background because, okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. If I have to just listen to Luetin09 drone on in that exaggerated accent of his while doing nothing, I'm actually going to go insane. I guess it's time to start roasting bad takes. Yes, that is the focus of today's stream. I'll probably do some other stuff when I'm done doing that. Might continue with Dune, might switch to Space Marine. I don't know. I'll figure it out when we get that far, but that's the main thing I want to do today. Listen, I'm just gonna put this out there. The Pontius was absolutely right about lore YouTubers. Your average 40K lore, air quotes, lore expert YouTuber does not know shit about shit. Let it be known, this is why I say I'm not an expert and that I in fact don't know shit about Warhammer. Like, I will say that out loud. I don't know shit. I know things. I don't pretend to be an expert and I never will. Nobody knows everything about Warhammer lore, and anybody who claims to be an expert is immediately suspicious. Like, the reason I know you can trust, say, the Pontius when he says he's a lore expert is because the guy literally dives into books and makes spends weeks digesting information and processing it and before making a video. I know he's trustworthy. Your average 40K lore tuber like Luetin has never read anything outside of fucking wiki. So, yeah. See, Wizards of the Coast going full live service with D&D. No, I did not. But that's they've been trying to do that for years now. So the fact they're actually going through with it all the way does not surprise me at all. Oh. So I've got Dune on in the background while yapping with you here, and it's got a sandstorm alert, but I'm in my base, so it's all good. I don't know the nitty-gritty about 40K either, but that should be worth something. Well, I mean, it's like, you don't have to know everything about 40K lore. You just have to, in my opinion, just have to know enough. You just have to know enough. That's all I've always thought. And you have to be open to hearing from the primary sources. That's lore books and stuff like that. if you're not willing to do that, if you hear from a primary source that you're wrong about something and your first instinct is to say, well, the primary source needs to change, then it's like, then you're not a Warhammer fan. It's that simple. And that's a direct shout out to the female Custodes people who were all like, well, the lore changed. It's like, no, the lore didn't change. They put through a stupid retcon that doesn't fit with the lore as established. The lore didn't change. You need to change to acknowledge the actual lore. Also saw one of the most pathetic doomer crash outs from a streamer yesterday about various topics, Japan Policy Center, and it basically proves unless he proves he proves two-faced IMO. You know, Megaman, I'm not gonna lie, all those black pilling doomer people just kind of blend together for me at this point, and they're all equally worthless. How was my day? How was my day? My day was just fine. Uneventful, but just fine. And I'm back home. I'm on live now. We're gonna be moving on as soon as the sandstorm passes and I don't have the sound of 1,000-mile-an-hour winds in my audio. We'll switch on over and we'll get going with Luetin, watching him. Black pillars are the worst. They really are. It's like, they're the kind of people, like a lot, okay, when I talk about the soy right, on occasion, I'm talking about right-wing black pillars, almost always. The kind of people who don't want wokeness to go away because they've literally defined their existence opposing it, rather than yeah. I like AOS and 40K. What I don't like is how GW handles their products lore-wise and appealing to the modern audience. Well, I'm pretty certain but first of all, hello, Ulysses Dragonheart. Second of all, I'm 99.9% certain they're probably not doing that anymore. Probably not going to be doing that anymore going forward. Especially if we're going by, how they're pivoting away from Tourney whales in 11th edition. Half their theories people have about Warhammer just straight up get confirmed if you open a book and it's crazy no one reads. Yeah, no, it's like when people say, Abaddon the Despoiler lost 12 Black Crusades at Cadia. It's like, he didn't even attack Cadia, he didn't even attack Cadia 13 times. He attacked Cadia twice. And all of the other Black Crusades, if Cadia was attacked at all, it was at most a diversion, or it was, here's a fun fact people don't realize, the Imperium labels any attack on Cadia by Chaos a Black Crusade. Like any attack and all attacks on Cadia were Black Crusades as far as the Imperium was concerned. So yeah. The Imperium has, Abaddon kept failing to take Cadia. It's like, bro, Abaddon wasn't even attacking you for most of those. The Gothic War, for example, is a Black Crusade. That didn't even go for Cadia. That took place in the Gothic sector. People seriously need to read their damn lore. It's that simple. And especially with just about all the major lore books being available online in various places, you really don't have an excuse to not have access to your primary sources. Also, read a damn Black Library book. Him losing the Black Crusades doesn't take away from the fact that the Black Crusades were so devastating for Imperium as a whole. Well, I mean, he didn't lose them, that's the thing. The whole idea that Abaddon had ulterior motives for his Black Crusades goes all the way back to the Eye of Terror campaign book. And then we saw and then there was the Gothic War, where it was his goal was to acquire a Blackstone fortress. One Blackstone fortress. He walked out of that war with 2. So he won his objective twice over. Lore is misogynistic and Nazi and Christian. They can't play the game without non-binary pregnant transmask Marks Marines. I mean, remember, the woke tourists love to say people on the right are politicizing Warhammer. If they hit you with that, then hit them with Okay, but I thought all art was political. Are you saying Warhammer isn't political now? Is that what you're saying? Eye of Terror book was wild. Demon gigantic pinball machine goes burnt. Yeah, no, man, the old, man, I love the old Eye of Terror campaign book. That was my first big campaign in Warhammer 40K. There was the Armageddon book when that came out. When that came out, though, the store I was at didn't do that campaign, but they did do Eye of Terror, and we did our Eye of Terror battles as part of one giant Apocalypse style board. Apocalypse I don't think was out yet, but everybody was playing at the same time at different fields of the war. I was the guy that got to face the dude who was playing Abaddon, so that was a lot of fun. And my Emperor's Champion, was legit just fucking riding from at the end of Metal Gear Rising. Well, fought a fucking bloodthirster and killed it. Then went 1v1 with Abaddon and killed him with 1 wound remaining and basically clinched the game. Because a win condition for our campaign was Abaddon dies. So yeah, Abaddon had to die, and I was the guy who had to fight him. Shit was so cash, man. If I could go back in time, I'd go back in time with It Has to Be This Way from Metal Gear Rising on a fucking boombox and play that in the fucking hobby store during the big duel between my Emperor's Champion and Abaddon. Shit was a lot of fun. Still not happy the lore book for 11th is tied to the limited edition starter box. That still chafes my asshole like you wouldn't imagine. I'm not cool with that. I will never be cool with that. No matter how GW could fucking pay me to hey, here's a bunch of money to become a professional shill for Games Workshop. I take the money and then shit talk that decision immediately. Yeah, you could pay me and that wouldn't change my opinion. I will say regarding 11th edition, okay, that's Storm Pass, so I'm gonna switch over soon here, but I want to get this out of the way. I will say regarding 11th edition, I'm actually glad design-wise that they're doing. They're separating the lore book part and the game rules part of what would be the main rule book into 2 separate books. The Combat Patrol Companion is the lore book, and it's going to focus primarily on Combat Patrol. So, easier, less rules involved and stuff like that. It's going to work primarily through the app, the Warhammer app, because Combat Patrol rules are basically free. And then the actual core rule book is going to be a separate thing now. And what I'm hoping that does is lower the cost of the core rules for people who want to start 40K, because I'm going to be completely frank, codexes are expensive enough without having to buy a $75 rule book. If they can cut the cost of the rule book in half by just cutting out the lore bit and making it a separate book, then I think that, that is a very good idea. I don't mind the lore and the rules being separate. In fact, I might actually pick up the Combat Patrol Companion, because okay, listen, I get my rules through a certain .ru website that will not be named out loud on stream, but that's where I get my rules. So I may actually just pick up the lore part, honestly, and then go to my favorite website for rules. Hopefully 4chan does its thing with that lore book. Listen, I'd be surprised if at least one guy doesn't pick it up just to scan that shit and preserve it. Hey, Bo, what do you think is going to come out of the Skulls event later this month? I completely forgot the Skulls event is this month. Shit. Oh, okay, Sigma, I know something is going to come out of it. I know that something's going to come out of it. Patch 13 for Space Marine 2 with the Iron Hands Champion pack for the Tech Marine. My brother from another mother, that's why I don't do tabletop. These prices are the worst. Listen, I've said it before. If you want to do tabletop, just do Tabletop Simulator. If you have a PC that can handle it, which it's not hard to handle as a game, pick it up on Steam. It's $20 once, and you can basically play 40K forever. Everything in 40K is up to date in Tabletop Sim. And then if you really want to collect minis, to just collect whatever minis you want, you won't need to buy a bajillion dollars in them to take part in games. Or you can just go through 3D printers, which also works. Or go Gundam Assemble when it comes out. Oh yeah, no. I bought the Gundam Assemble starter set. I admit I'm probably going to play both 11th and Gundam Assemble. 11th has been doing shit that I actually like so far. And the rules they've previewed look good. They look like, actual improvements over 11th. And I like the idea of the detachment point system because I want to combine that Emperor's Champion detachment with a detachment for it's going to be a detachment for Sword Brethren. So I want to combine those detachments if I can. But yeah, okay. So you know what? I've yapped enough. So let's move on over here. We'll have the video playing in the upper left. And yeah. I mean, over 10th? What did I say? 7th, 11th? Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, I'm going to be playing 11th edition, not 10th. Yeah, I hate dyscalculia. I severely hate it. You have no idea. Secondhand mini market is full of cheap minis to paint. It really is. It really is. All right. Okay. Let's get this down. All right. I want to make sure this is. You know what? Actually, hold on. Switch this over here. And size that up a little bit. There we go. All right. I said 11th, not 10th. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm going to be playing 11th edition when it comes out. 11th edition. Right. Okay. So here we go. This is Luetin's new video. It is called The Silent Death of the STC. And it makes some very stupid points. And that's what we're going to be watching here. Still beating yourself up over 4,000 point Space Wolf army you lost in the fire. Oh, Jesus, man. I'm so sorry.
Now, I think the topic for today is very important, personally, but it's also one which is more discussive than it is based in physical lore. But if you stick with me for just a moment, it will all make sense.
I think starting your video saying this is speculation is not a good look.
It's easy to get straight to the heart of things, but I do want to be clear from the outset that the framing of this discussion is not focused on any one change or singular update that's been made to the lore. And in terms of this, I'm thinking about a time window of...
The STC was for an air fryer?
And I think
that would be lost technology.
There are some revelations, changes, elements of the 40k verse, which remain, no matter how somebody may feel individually about, just more contentious and subjectively problematic. But what triggered me into thinking
he says that and shows a Custodes.
Is in terms of
it's almost like he wants to admit it's bullshit.
Can be, especially when it comes to people's long journey in building a sense of what is more true to.
I can turn it up. Hold on. I can turn it up.
M41. It was those new guard vehicles and specifically the descriptions that go with them which brought me to this point. Before I get into all of that, I will say thank you for joining me once again, but also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider this.
Bleach is probably long-lost technology, probably.
I am finally on the home straight for 1 million subscribers, and whilst not technically something I ever set out to achieve, it would be just a nice thing to get as a YouTube creator. So if you're not already subbed and you do follow the channel, please hit that one for me. It makes a huge difference for the channel in terms of the algorithm, along with likes and so on. Now, I do also want to quickly make a small corrective amendment announcement off the back of my last video, Because if you didn't know, in the past month I welcomed my second child to the world. It's one of the reasons why I sound like crap and I'm so run down. But even in the run-up to that happening, my state of focus was, let's just say, scattered, to say the least. I think this is why...
Yeah, don't sub to Luetin. He's not good at what he does.
Naming conventions, hippogriff, etc. My brain decided to just entirely blank the extremely obvious fact that the vast swath of Imperial vehicles already bear names like Manticore, Chimera, and so on. Despite the fact as well that literally in front of me right now on the shelf are 2 boxes which say Manticore on the side of them. So I hope you can appreciate this was a rare, complete mental blank for me. I know many people commented about it. I'm sorry you had to. It's absurd that I slipped up.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Luetin does like to flip-flop on whether canon is a thing or not.
Essentially what I want to focus on talking about is not should X thing be a part of 40k or not. Each case for such things can be made and likely have been at length across innumerable social platforms. What I want to talk about
and he
is
shows
how
Custodes again while saying
the implementation
that
of such things impacts the wider context of the law. And I want to underscore how big a deal that is for me anyway, because it's more important than just new thing arrives. And this is primarily because I think we are reaching a disturbing point where we may be standing in a position and have no other option than to presume some kind of full reset has occurred in terms of the law standing when it comes to Imperial technology. In short, if you
that
have to
is
ask me today,
incredibly hyperbolic to say. I'm going to be honest with you there. That is just hyperbole.
The idea that STC are the primary method of technology pattern discovery for the Imperium no longer holds any weight. In some respects, I'm not happy.
Okay, immediately, right off the bat. Okay. Fucking immediately, with extreme hyperbole. I mean, okay, think of how insane that is. Okay, think of how insane he's being right now. The STC no longer exists. Like, where the actual hell do you get that from? Okay, y'all probably don't know where he's going with this. You'll see where he's going with this, but I'm sorry, when you open up a video with extreme hyperbole, I think you immediately undermine any point you were trying to make. Wait, no, I can put that in a better spot. Okay. Let's unpause the video.
About this, in another, it does sort of make sense. In relation to this, for the longest time, whenever I saw people stating, well, isn't it likely that somebody on X planet is just out there inventing stuff? Humans aren't going to just forget how to do that. In some respects, that's not correct because of the education factor in terms of the Imperium and the state of the culture. And so my response was generally, well, maybe, but probably not. And inevitably the Mechanicus would just then shut them down later, or the Inquisition. It's going to stay planet localized, it's not going to spread beyond that point, because if that happens, they're going to face really severe consequences. While that may still be true, I feel the needle now has shifted on the acceptance and the emergence of new things. And I say this quite simply because it appears that GW just no longer seem to be particularly concerned about providing suitable descriptions for the background of new things that give us their relevant lore context in terms of origin and history. It used to be pretty default that when you got basically the statement about whatever the thing was which was arriving, and there has been plenty which has arrived over the last 10 or longer years, you would basically get, oh, so-and-so found this on a planet in such date, etc., etc., or, well, we haven't seen too many of these because of X reason, but now they're being used more, blah, blah, blah. Something like that. And again, you might think that's a very small, irrelevant detail, but for me anyway, it helps contextualize things, and it helps things slot into the existing world, which to me is pretty important, because it's maintaining that immersion, that in fiction, which is how I see 40k. In both instances, though, of the new vehicles for the Guard, Hippogriff and the Centaur, the language describing them does so as if they have always existed. And you might think that's a trend that we are now starting to see. Hey, here's a thing. Oh, by the way, didn't you know that was always here? Now, I was lucky enough to see a preview version of the new Yarrick books. Sometimes I get previews like this, and I can say that when it comes to the brief paragraphs which describe the Hippogriff and the Centaur, the description focuses heavily on words which contextualize them as having always existed, but without explicitly saying so. It talks about them vaguely as existing in abundance, being relied upon, favoured for certain tactical doctrines, and so on. Basically no specific references at all to their origins, but making it absolutely clear that, trust me bro, they were always there. Now, as I said, I'm not focused on specific additions today, but similarly to something like the female Custodes, which I have already talked about, the implementation is what I take issue with. Because when you have new characters like this Commissar Graves, whose lore background is similarly bonkers, I think they just kind of, with Graves, they were like, well, she has to kind of step up to the plate. She's got to kind of be in the mix when Yarrick's beside there as well. So they went way over the top. It actually kind of works for 40k, but her description, which you'll learn of later, is just bonkers. Basically, she's just killing people left, right, and centre on the mildest pretext, and it's just mad. You've also got Inquisitor Croyle, this sort of peacocking, flamboyant, noble Inquisitor. The fact you've never seen these figures before, it's not really the issue, because at a human level in a verse as wide and chaotic as the Imperium, encountering people you've never seen or heard of until a specific point is just basically a...
I'm going to immediately add this in, by the way. I'm going to immediately add this. If he says, oh, what I take issue with the Custodes is not that they exist, the female Custodes is not that they exist, but how they were implemented. I'm sorry, Luetin, no. No, they can't exist. This is why they're not canon. Even they may have minis, but they're not canon. Nothing has been done to cement their existence in 40k. Until that happens, until we get, like, say, a Custodes, creation process that can be described, which will never happen, I will point out, we can't get female Custodes. It doesn't matter how often you add that. It doesn't matter how much you try to insist upon them. They do not exist because nothing in the lore says they can exist. This is lore basics, A thing has to be grounded in, and I know what people are gonna say, but the guard vehicles. Okay, here's the thing, and this is gonna be a core point of, we're probably gonna get into over this, but I'm gonna give the basic point here. A vehicle and a person are not the same thing. The sheer breadth of potential guard vehicles that exist in the lore cannot be understated. We have no idea the true extent of, guard vehicles that might exist. It is a massive universe. It does not have to be some design that has always been, it doesn't have to be some design that is like decades and decades of existence is elaborated upon in extreme detail. It has always existed can be perfectly fine for a vehicle. When you have a system in which, and that's the STCs, this is a thing he's claiming doesn't exist anymore, which again, I believe is hyperbolic. With the way STC, oh, Jesus. With the way STCs work, you can have a vehicle that has never been mentioned before just show up. That is perfectly fine. But Custodes are predilected, their lore is set up on the idea that only men can be Custodes, that only men have always been Custodes, that ultimately, at the end of the day, women can never be them. It was always very explicitly clear. Only sons are chosen to be Custodes. Why is that? Well, it's very simple. Because only men can be Custodes. If women could be Custodes, they would try to utilize them. They would not waste that resource. But only men could be them. So yes, you can just have a vehicle just pop up. No, you cannot have female custodes at all. The only way to justify it, like I said, is to completely and utterly describe down to the most minute detail how a custodes is created, the exact process. Same as with Space Marines. If you can't do that, you can't have the thing you want. And that's the simple truth of it. That's the simple truth. Okay, let me get this going again. Let's let him ramble on a little more.
Given there's probably more characters who have existed for decades and you equally haven't heard of, in honesty, unless you're just masterfully well-read on 40k lore. But with that said, when it comes to heavily established factions, suddenly noting, oh, that? Yeah, that was always there. Didn't you notice? It's so neck-breakingly jarring. But as I will note later, there is even ways that you can write around that, should you really want to. I just can't honestly imagine why, because there's so many innumerable preferable ways to introduce new things and still have it sit comfortably with the audience. And that comfort with the lore is really what I take issue with, and seemingly many others do. Because as you know at this point, I enjoy things, as I say, to be delivered in a contextually plausible in-fiction manner, not just bang, this is here now. Consider the best example of Call. While some of his creations may be a bit flat, overall Belisarius Call as a character works, and so do the arrival of the things he brought to the table. It's not been an easy journey, but I feel now most people just accept Call, even enjoy him, because of the writing and his character. And as I said in the most
Call is a good
video,
character, I do agree with that.
Of Call and his story to this point. It's pretty epic, and his recent arguments with other members of the Mechanicus was very strong when it comes to establishing his rationale in terms of producing new technology. Not only that, but he's also backed by Guilliman, which, again, makes sense. You might imagine that if Guilliman was not around, Call would be facing much more significant consequences and censure.
He really does lean on Guilliman to stay alive.
Detrimental to the Imperium in terms of not having the things that Call is trying to do. But with Guilliman effectively giving Call license for heresy, in terms of technology anyway, there are very few limits upon him. Now I think we all know it's certain the Primarch wouldn't approve of everything Call is up to, and he even states that himself with his typically dark humour, but the Guilliman get out of jail free card does enable Call to throw new things into the mix and take on tasks that others would be far too scared to. Plus the added benefit of it not feeling jarring to us via dissociative lore. In stark contrast to that, you've got the new guard vehicles arriving with basically no references to their origin other than, yeah, they're stalwart, they're well-trusted guard vehicles, they're used broadly, but also you've just never seen them before. Why? Don't worry about that, my friend, you best stick to your work. And you might say, well, come on, Luetin, they're just vehicles, it doesn't really matter, whatever. I can't deal with it. It feels like a gut punch in terms of acceptable lore delivery.
Okay, but Luetin, listen. So the guard vehicles are a bridge too far, but the female custodes were not. You think the female custodes can exist. They just did it poorly. But you think these guard vehicles can't exist. Even though the guard vehicles are 1,000 times more acceptable in terms of, like, just being a thing that can just pop out of thin air. Calls a Mary Sue and he sucks in cheap and setting. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't, Isaiah. Look. I'm just gonna say you're just wrong. I'm not even gonna argue with you. You're just wrong. Like there's no debate to be had. You are just wrong. Luetin has ass backwards. He does. He's okay with the things that should not be working the way he's describing, and not okay with the things that actually can work. It's completely backwards. All right, let's unpause this.
To me, it really bothers me. Is it something
It really
that makes you want to
shouldn't.
just tip over a table and abandon 40k? No, that would be stupid, especially for something I've basically invested 30 years of myself into. But it does feel unnecessarily blunt. And I will say, for the people who always fail to sincerely engage with my rationale that canonicity is not a thing in 40k, and who say, oh, so by Luetin's logic, we can just invent anything, anytime, add it to 40k. No, I've been very clear all the way. The answer to that is both yes and no. You just have to sincerely engage with the concept and the parameters and not be silly about it. The
Luetin, you cannot say 40k has no canon. You say that with your whole chest all the fucking time. You cannot say that and then turn around and say, oh, but this thing violates canon and I don't like it. There are no weasel words in the English language that allow you to have your cake and eat it too in this regard. You cannot have both no canon and canon. They directly contradict each other. And on top of all that, 40k has canon, Luetin. It's not up to you. It's not up to Games Workshop. If they are publishing official material to describe a fictional universe, you know, like officially published material that they support and recognize as, you know, facts of the setting, then Warhammer has canon. It is not something you can weasel around. That is how, this is not something Games Workshop decides. It's not something you decide. It's not something I decide. Do you know what decides it, Luetin? I'll tell you. The basics of narrative writing decide it. This is the basics of narrative writing. This is the most basic shit, the most basic bitch part of writing. That is what decides this. Not anybody, not any person or company gets to decide if, hold on. There we go. No, they don't, like, Games Workshop doesn't make this decision, okay? I don't make this decision. Just the rules of the rules of writing make this decision. That is how writing works. There are permanent rules to writing that you cannot get around. This is the basics of how you construct a narrative. If you are publishing material that acts as like, okay, these are the things that happen. These are events in this setting. Then you don't get to say, oh, but okay, it wasn't actually true. The events are true. If Games Workshop publishes a single book telling a story in the 41st millennium, that story happened. You don't get to pull weasel words with, oh, there's no canon. It doesn't matter what fucking anyone has to say on the matter. That is canon. It doesn't matter what ADB or fucking Gav Thorpe or any of these fucking, you know, pretentious ass motherfuckers working at GW have to say about canon. That is canon. And you don't get to say, oh, but there is no canon. No, there is canon. And if you think there is no canon, you are coping. Like that is the long and short of it. If you think there's no canon, you are coping. I think I'm lagging too. Speaking of coping, I think I'm lagging as well because man, the fucking building shit's being a bitch today. Anyway, I'm pausing. Why is that posting twice? Okay.
idea of what is, if you want to use the term canon in 40k, leans heavily on what is already established. It's really not that complicated. In essence, the way I view things is, if something has been widely referenced for a long time from official sources, not just anybody making up whatever they want, if it's well established through multiple first and second-hand sources across novels, campaign material, and the like, then you can be pretty sure that is a thing which exists.
Luetin, you've just contradicted yourself.
You can just wake up one day and find out that, oh wow, Space Marine Terminators were never a thing. It was all just warp shenanigans. No, they're very heavily embedded and evidenced in the lore, so that is a thing. We can know it is there. At the same time, does it mean that you couldn't get rid of Terminators in the lore? Absolutely not. You could very easily rationalize by any number of formats that happening. Some edict from Gilliman, maybe they lose the tech, the STC, and on and on. There are so many ways.
Oh my God! This is frying me. This is frying me. Hold on.
And all I'm trying to say is, there's a plausible way to make things.
Okay, Luetin just contradicted himself. Okay, the thing he just So he thinks I can tell Luetin has never written a story in his life. He's never written a story. He doesn't know how writing works. He has legitimately no idea. If just because so let's do some thinking. Okay, let's do some thonking. So let's come up with a hypothetical scenario. Okay. It's they brought Terminators. So we got new Terminator minis in 10th edition, right? Now let's say in 10th edition, GW had decided that Terminator armor would go away because it's not compatible with Primaris Marines, right? Do I need help in Dunar? Am I fine? I'm fine for now, Krypton. I'm just setting up. I'm setting up the Deep Desert base. If you want to come out here though, because I should have the if you give me a little while, I'll have everything set up. And if you want to start using it to using the buggy to mine, or looking for spice and putting it in the boxes, I'll have it up in a couple in 15, 20 minutes. The stream will be by myself though, because I'm mainly focusing on what we're watching here. But right, so now, well, again, hypothetical scenario. Terminator armor goes away because let's just say all the Space Marines are Primaris now, and therefore no one's compatible with Terminator armor anymore. So Terminator armor isn't utilized anymore, right? Hypothetical scenario. That would not be decanonization of Terminator armor. Terminator armor would still have existed and still be canon. It's just that nobody can fucking wear it. But that wouldn't remove it from canon. Luetin seems to believe that if, say, Terminator armor went away for some reason that is described in universe, that means it's not canon anymore. That's not how canon works. Terminator armor would still be canon. It wouldn't remove 40 odd years of lore where Terminator armor was usable by Space Marines. It would just mean going forward, Space Marines are no longer compatible with Terminator armor. The only way for something to be truly non-canon is that either it is retconned to have never existed, or it's retconned as an event that's out. Basically, it's you can only get rid of canon through retcon. That's basically how it works. And retcon is another term that a lot of 40k fans really do not understand. Especially a lot of so-called, air quotes, lore experts just do not grasp how canon works. And Luetin is a shining example of this. He does not understand canon as a concept, not just in 40k, but in literature as a whole, at the most basic levels of writing. He does not understand how canon works. You do SWTOR leveling, so you wanted to know if anything urgent is needed. All right, yeah, if something is needed, I'll tag you in the Discord, all right? If I urgently need something, all right? I'll let you know, dude. Don't worry. Thanks for checking in, though. Right. What? Why is... Okay, hold on. Let me, yeah, let me do that. All right, okay, let me get it in the shade so I don't die of heat stroke. The shade isn't helping. Okay, going to unpause. Going to unpause.
Things happen or change, it doesn't mean just throwing into thin air new things or erasing others without warning. It also doesn't mean you have to be happy about a change. Things can change and you can still be unhappy with it. You don't like it doesn't make sense to you, whatever. That can happen. But arguing about if it can or can't happen, that is not the way. No, Luetin, listen. Canon is not open to interpretation. What is canon, and that is not something you argue, all right? If Games Workshop it does anything wrong, honestly, involving canon, like if I'm being completely honest, okay, they used to have a brand on their stuff. It was called Heretical Tomes. They used to have it for Ian Watson's novels, for example, which are not canon. It was basically like, okay, so how it is Games Workshop does have things that are not canon. Like that is true. They have things that are not canon, things that they still publish despite not being canon. Like, why is my... Yeah, I don't know, whoever that is calling, yep, that's your problem. I'm busy right now. Right. Games Workshop used to have a label for, you know, things they still publish that were not canon. It was called Heretical Tomes. They haven't used it for a long time, but there are things they still publish, that they still sell, that they still, you know, you can still get that are Warhammer related that are not canon. The Ian Watson Space Marine novels, or Ian Watson novels, Space Marine, the Inquisition War Trilogy, those are not canon. Warhammer 40,000 Fire War is not canon. The collective works of one CS Godo are not canon. You know, sometimes they will straight up say the thing isn't canon, like with Space Marine. Like with Space Marine, this is the Ian Watson novel Space Marine, to clarify. Space Marine and, you know, the Inquisition War Trilogy. They say outright those are not canon. What do you call it? What's it called? Fire Warrior. There's a disclaimer now on the Steam version of Fire Warrior that straight up says this is no longer canon. What do you call it? The CS Godo novels. That's like the CS Godo novels, or say Dawn of War 3, which is also not canon. They have to, you know, granted, it's not interpretive, don't get me wrong, but it's a little more intuitive, because like Dawn of War 3, in the official Index Astartes lore book for the Blood Ravens, it glosses, again, this is the entry that determines everything canon about the Blood Ravens, that being, you know, the main characters of Dawn of War. Everything about Dawn of War 3 is brushed under the rug. It basically didn't happen. That also decanonizes a massive amount of lore written by C.S. Godo, because he wrote the novels for the Dawn of War series. It decanonizes all of his novels. Those novels are not canon now. And I'm going to be I'm sorry, but if you honestly thought that an Eldar novel where the Seer Council of Craftworld Oathway worships Slaanesh, if you thought that was ever canon, you're just stupid. I'm sorry. So yes, there are things that are not canon, that have been retconned out. There are things that are confused for retcon. Necrons, in their depiction in 3rd edition, was not retconned. It was added to. That is an expansion, not a subtraction. Because things post-retcon, you know what I mean? Things post-lore update for Necrons still exist in the lore. Pariahs are still a thing that existed at one time. They don't exist anymore, but they existed. And the stories that reference them, like say Caves of Ice from the Caiaphas Cain trilogy, Caiaphas Cain books, are still canon.
The Necrons were like the Tyranids when they first came out. They were elaborated upon from the perspective of other factions, but not the Necrons themselves. The second set of Necron lore, the one that gave them personalities and everything, was the Necrons from their perspective. That is not a lore subtraction. That is a lore addition. Another good example is Leagues of Votann. The people are trying, because people have used Leagues of Votann as an argument for female custodes, saying, well, they brought the squats back, from the dead, but you can't accept female custodes. It's like, well, you see, here's the thing: the squats were never wiped out. They were never wiped out to begin with. The squats were okay. There's a lot of confusion about squats because a lot of people seem to think the squats were wiped out by Tyranids, which is not what happened. The whole idea that squats were wiped out by Tyranids was literally a, well, maybe this is where they went, quote from a black library, not black library, from a white dwarf editor. It was never a canon statement within the lore itself. It was a guy doing a, well, maybe this, situation. Shit. So the Leagues of Votann coming back is in fact not abnormal. It is not a retcon. It actually fits in quite well, and the Games Workshop is even aware of the old wives' tales about the kin being wiped out by Tyranids, because they've worked that into the lore with a league that got wiped out by Tyranids. Like they've worked it into the setting, which I think is actually pretty clever if you ask me. So it's not like they were ever wiped out. There was a gag order that you weren't allowed to mention the squats anymore, but the squats were never wiped out. So the Leagues of Votann being a thing is not a retcon of the squats being wiped out. So yeah, the TLDR is that Luetin doesn't know what the fuck retcon is. He doesn't know what canon is. And if he's honestly, and I mean honestly, if he honestly believes that canon doesn't exist in 40K, he needs to hang up his YouTube channel. Like, it's that simple. Okay, rant over. I am sorry.
Cannot really argue with that because of just the way the 40K verse is structured.
Actually, yes, Luetin, I can't argue with that. I just did.
And that's really the core, the meat of what I'm trying to get to. And again, this is why recently some of the things that were most jarring were things like the female custodes reveals. It wasn't their existence per se, it was the way it was done. If they'd introduced this change 20 years ago with some rationalization, I guarantee nobody would have really raised an eyebrow. But after so much time reinforcing references about custodes, brotherhood, and so on, and basically also just being men everywhere, suddenly turning that upside down was jarring, neck-breakingly jarring. But even then, it need not have been. If they'd have gone with anything other than, trust me mate, they were always there, it wouldn't have felt like such a slap in the face.
Okay, Luetin, you are so fucking frustrating of a person. Because you made, okay, when you said they should have done it 20 years ago, like, okay, let's make it, again, a hypothetical. Custodes, they start getting elaborated upon in Horus Heresy like they were, right? There are women among their ranks when the Custodes first show up in the Horus Heresy novels. That would have been fucking what? What was the first novel in Horus Heresy that featured them? It would have been over 20 years, like 20 years ago or more at this point, basically. But right, it's just a hypothetical situation. Custodes are first elaborated upon in the Horus Heresy, and they decide there's going to be women among the Custodes. Luetin is right. Nobody would have cared. Because that would have been the establishing moment for the faction in modern 40K, and that would have been the place to do it, right? On that first novel where they show up. Now that's the thing. Luetin is absolutely right in saying that. I will not say he's wrong just because I don't like the man. He is absolutely right in this case. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with this statement. He's now trying to say that because of that, like, now he's saying, like, in comparison to that, you could make the female custodes work today. No, you cannot. That ship has sailed. That ship sailed 20 years ago. You cannot make them work now, because now the lore on how they work is too ironclad to change in such a radical fashion. It is too late to try and fix the custodes, or fix, air quotes. Add this lore, of the custodes. It is too late. You cannot do it anymore. Like, I'm sorry, but no, you cannot have female custodes anymore, because that ship has sailed. What you're trying to do, you know, the thing with Luetin09, I can see it in it, like, as he talks. He does not want to like the female custodes, right? He wants to denounce them. I can hear it in how he speaks. He wants to denounce them so badly, but he can't. Because if he does, he'll get in trouble with all the wrong people. I can hear it in his voice. He wants to say they're bad and they're dumb and they should go away, and Games Workshop will just say, oh, they're gone, you know, which, to be fair, they should. But he's clearly trying to, you know, avoid the wrath, as it were, of the, he's trying to avoid the wrath of certain individuals, we will just say. You know what? Actually, you know what? We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that thing there. Okay. He wants GW money. He straight up said openly he gets, you know, early access to model previews. So, like, yeah, he wants that GW money. He doesn't want to do something that might, you know, piss off Games Workshop, or potentially hurt his position as a community icon. And this also cuts into my, you know, statements about community as a concept. He's more concerned with his image than his accuracy. Because if he says something to piss off the community, which will absolutely rake him across the coals for not being a, you know, good little woke boy, when it comes to, you know, the custodes issue. If he doesn't, like, toe the line, he will get in trouble. So he has to toe the line. And that's half the problem here. Like, that's half the problem with community as a concept. Is that, you know, hierarchy and conformity is celebrated. But if you dare break from that, you're considered a pariah. Luetin would become a pariah among the community if he denounced, you know, female custodes. He'd be celebrated by the fandom, but denounced by the community, and he can't afford that. So of course he's going to defend female custodes with his dying fucking breath.
What if through a nice, maybe gritty, well-written exploratory novel which delves into the darker depths of the Imperial Palace, something there was found as an experimental part of the Emperor's creation process for the Custodes deep below, and it turned out this was his intention all along. There was always the call factor as well. Basically, you don't need to go down the list. There are ways which you can make stuff.
Okay, first of all, okay, no. I know I'm pausing the video a lot. I'm going to I'm going to hyper focus on this because this is one of those moments where he should be shining as a lore expert, but is utterly dropping the ball. No. You cannot just have the ability to make female custodes be discovered by somebody. Oh, and that was the Emperor's true intention. The Emperor perfected the ability to make custodes before their creation. It was never something he intended to go back and change. If it was something that was doable, it would have been already doable. And you can't have Call go back and change it. That is a cop-out. Now, I will defend Call's character. People get really histrionic about Call. But he's also not your go-to thing for every woke thing you want in 40K, Luetin. That's not how that works. Call barely figured out Gene Seed. He literally had to have the Emperor astral project into his fucking brain to figure out how to do the 3 Primaris Gene Seed organs and figure out the Sancprimus Portum in order to start making Primaris Gene Seed. That he needed divine intervention to figure that out. And you're going to tell me he would somehow be able to alter the Custodes creation process, which the Emperor was like so strict about that he put a hard cap of 10,000 Custodes ever existing at one time, like never creating more than that. You think he would actually help Call with that? Of course he wouldn't. There is no situation where Call is able to work on the process of creating the Adeptus Custodes. There is no process, there is no situation where it can work. The idea that it can be done is a dead issue. And so stop trying to use, Belisarius Call as your, get out of jail free coat, okay? It's not happening. That's not Goofy and Mary Sue-ish to anyone else. Okay, Isaiah, I said you were wrong about Call before, and I'm going to say it again. You are wrong about Call. The fact Call can't just pull this shit out of his ass, like everyone seems to think he can, is the opposite of Mary Sue-ish. If he was a Mary Sue, he would be able to just make new Gene Seed like it was nothing. Needing the original blueprints, the Sancprimus Portum, which he couldn't figure out, and divine intervention from the Emperor is not Mary Sue-ish. It shows that he has limits. The same happens with other characters. Sisters of Battle exist thanks to the Emperor. Yeah, no. The Emperor legit, talked to him. I can never remember which sister it was, the first one to go see the Emperor. He talked to her directly, told her what to do. Dominica, thank you. Yeah, Alicia Dominica, that's her. Yeah, okay, thank you. He talked to Alicia Dominica directly. He, all the time, the Emperor legitimately does, divine intervention for people. So yeah, no, I don't want to hear, calls a Mary Sue because the Emperor intervened on his behalf to create the Primaris. No, that actually completely tracks with the Emperor and shit he's done in the past.
Happen. There's just tons of other options than, yeah, this was always a thing. Also, don't ever
No,
ask
there
us
aren't,
about it
Luetin, shut
again,
up.
And it's definitely not related to an Amazon series requirement. In terms, though, of trust...
Okay. All right, I'm gonna put this out there. If you call yourself a lore expert and you're citing 4chan shit posts for things, you need to hang it up. All right. Okay. Here's something I think people just got to get comfortable with, even if they don't wanna. Amazon has nothing to do with the female Space Marines thing. That is just Games Workshop being retarded. The whole idea that Amazon required it was from a 4chan shitpost that boiled down to, trust me, bro, my dad works for Games Workshop. That is not the reason we have female custodes. It is literally just Games Workshop being retarded. It is Games Workshop being retarded. They did that shit to themselves. Nobody convinced them to do it. They just thought it would be a good idea to pander to wokeness, and it blew up in their face. Nobody convinced them, not Amazon, not, anybody. There was no outside company telling them what to do. That was just Games Workshop being fucking retards. But like I said, you all need to fucking accept that. The sooner you accept that Games Workshop is retarded and doesn't know what to do with their own fucking company, the quicker you'll be able to actually learn how to criticize them better. Doesn't that reduce the Emperor to a plot device? No, because the Emperor is a character in his own right. Even on the throne, he is a character. A plot device would have nothing really grounded in the setting except say, you know, oh, Call just did it because he's just that awesome. And that would also be Mary Sue territory. Can I make that door bigger? And you know what, actually? I should be able to do that without draining too much power. Okay, I'm gonna unpause the video.
Lore. Other things like Kerr's and Sanguinius's visions, they saw them, they believe them, they're part of the lore. But whether what they see is solid or not is unknowable. And the point is that
by the way, I want to point out some more hypocrisy on Luetin's part. Luetin has gone on record saying Rogel Dorn is dead, and his proof of it is Kerr's vision that Rogel Dorn would die. But now he's saying, oh, Kerr's having a vision doesn't make that vision canon. Like, bro, which is it? Which, like, what is it? Like, stick to a fucking point. Jesus Christ.
Whilst we can know those are the things they saw, only they can directly really relate to those things. It can't inform other elements because we can't rely on that.
Luetin, you said Dorn is dead because of
innumerable campaigns of the Imperium out among the galaxy. You've got all the side quests of the Cabal and stuff like this. You've got strange characters appearing in short stories who vanish never to be seen again. They could be AI, they could be relics of the Dark Age of technology or not. All of these little details you can't be sure for certain to base solid references to those things because they usually only appear in a singular instance. You may be able to make a passing mention of it, or if there were characters with some kind of common theme within them that were appearing here and there, you might be able to connect all those things together. But my rule is usually, if it's singularly mentioned in one place, you can't really rely on it. It has to be more broadly evidenced.
You relied on Kerr's vision of Dorn dying, you hypocrite.
Retcon word in 40k. It's more that the galaxy itself is so chaotic that something which happens in one place or one reference can be so easily contradicted or completely overwritten later. It's hard to trust things. It's not about wanting to or not, it's just hard to trust things. And this doesn't even mean that were a major or small change to happen, that you define that necessarily as a retcon. That's why I always am reticent to use that word. It just means...
Luetin, retcons happen. I literally cited retcons. Like things that have been retconned out of the lore. Dawn of War 3. C.S. Goto's novels. Fire Warrior. I've literally cited retcons. You can't say retcon doesn't happen. I think people are way too quick to use the term retcon. They really are. But retcon still happens.
That the original information you were using was never secure enough to be considered canon in terms of it being locked in and immovable. And that just further supports the whole idea of established parameters in events in 40k being more fluid than in other fictional verses.
Luetin, that's not how this fucking works. That's not how this fucking works. You are describing canon. Okay? You are describing canon. Oh, he's not even up to the point where he's not even up to his main argument yet. I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm. Jesus Christ.
I just want to remind that this is backed up, albeit somewhat indirectly, by actual 40k authors' statements over the years, that in essence, canonicity in the typical way we imagine it is not a thing in 40k. 40k is just this melting pot of ideas, and everything kind of establishes itself through weight of superiority over time.
No, Luetin. No. No. That is not how it works. Look, I get it. Some people who wrote for Black Library had opinions on the idea that Warhammer doesn't have canon. Guess the fuck what, Luetin? That was never officially supported. That is exactly what it was. Authors with opinions. You want to know the funny thing about author opinions? They don't dictate canon. Author opinions do not dictate canon. That is not how that works. The opinions of authors are the opinions of authors. They are not sources of canon. Gav Thorpe can say, you know, and I quote, the idea of canon in 40K is fallacy, all he fucking wants. Guess what? That's his opinion. And his opinion does not dictate how canon works. And you, as somebody who calls himself a lore expert, should recognize this. You should accept this. You should not use it as your fallback to have your cake and eat it too when you want to get fucking mad at something you don't like what's going on right now, but also support things that you do like that directly violate canon, like female custodes. You don't get to have both.
And as I've said, in many ways, I'd love to have everything locked down, tied to dates and clearly labelled. And with that specifically in mind, I'm not at all happy lately about things becoming even more vague. Dropping M dates for additional lore material is not a positive for me. If you go through any of the newer campaign material, codexes, things like this, you will struggle to find an M date anywhere. They've basically stopped referencing that now. And that is just, it's going to be...
The reason they stopped referencing it, Luetin, and as a lore expert, you should know this, is that when Guilliman came back, like part of his whole deal with the Historitors was that he adopted a new calendar system. I don't have the chassis for the buggy, god damn it. He established a whole new calendar system. Like, this was part of the lore, Luetin. Like he established a new calendar system. The old M date thing was retired by Guilliman when he came back. Like this is like this. You should know this. You want to be a lore. You call yourself an expert, an authority, a person who can always be cited as accurate, but you don't know this. That is a problem. Okay, that is a big problem. Okay, you know what, Luetin, I'll even give you the benefit of the doubt here. I will fully admit, I did not, especially in a couple in 10th edition, I am not a fan of a lot of the campaign books in 10th edition, especially the so-called Fourth War for Armageddon that's basically already been retconned because of how much of a fucking stinker it was. But you know what? I acknowledge that they published it and that they should have dated it. You know what? I'll give you that. They should have dated it. But at the same time, yeah, no, there's a reason the old calendar system in 40K isn't around anymore. Like, Guilliman's not using it anymore. Should they date things? Yes, but it's not like this is just coming out of nowhere. This has been a thing since 8th edition. Like, fuck, what was it, 10 years now? Is 8th edition close to it, maybe? God, I'm old. But anyway.
So problematic years down the line when people are trying to make some kind of chronological sense of things. But I also respect the verse, and I prefer to see things, as I say, from this in-fiction perspective. In that sense, you can't ignore the fact that the galaxy of 40K, heresy to M41, is riddled with extreme levels of corruption and manipulation and propaganda. There are certainly pros and cons to both the in-fiction perspective and the external position for ourselves from the 40K verse, not least that it allows an almost unique level of adjustment and manipulation by the writers, which, intentional or not, has become a surprisingly foolproof way of changing things around without necessarily having to declare it a devastating retcon.
Okay, listen, Luetin, okay. And this goes further into why I say, straight up, Luetin does not understand how writing works. The stories set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe are what you call third-person omniscient. Like the vast majority of them are third-person omniscient. Let me describe to you what that means. The viewpoint character is God. It is God himself watching the events happen. You as the reader fulfill that role as God, watching the events happen. These are not events like say, this was Imperial propaganda. No, that is not how that works. A third person's omniscient story is very directly telling you what happened as it happened. A story cannot be under this, it may not have happened that way, sort of perspective, unless it is first person. That is from the perspective of somebody experiencing it directly as if they are experiencing it. And guess what? Two of the most prominent examples of that in 40K lore are not, what do you call it? One of them. One of them is, the Eisenhorn novel. They are Eisenhorn's own personal records of the events of what happened, and he has no reason to lie to himself. Because, they're like, these are records for no one's eyes but his. So he has no reason to lie to himself. So it's safe to assume those are the events as they happen. The other is Caiaphas Cain. Now, the Caiaphas Cain novels are basically an Inquisitor Amberly Vale of the Order of Xenos, going over Cain's personal records. So while they're written by Cain, and they are full of accuracies, the series goes out of its way to have Amberly, barge in with lore and historical anecdotes to basically correct Cain as he goes, and even points out the spots where Cain didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, up to the point of actually making jokes out of it. So yeah, no, that doesn't count either. You can't pull this, it's Imperial propaganda thing, because it's not Imperial fucking propaganda. It is God looking down on the events as they happen, how they happen. That is how writing works. You can't just say, it doesn't apply because it's your story. Because guess what? These are the rules of writing. It's not up to the author, and it's not up to the creator. The rules of writing supersede the creator.
It doesn't mean people will still be happy about it, but it can technically mean things can change without that being done entirely externally, like you might see with stuff like Star Wars or Doctor Who, where they basically just said, stick it in the bin and set fire to decades of established material, which is not only absolutely insane, but they have very clearly paid the price for that. So,
well, okay, at least he acknowledges that New Doctor Who and Star Wars fucking suck, but man, I'm look. Oh, that filled that 100%. Oh, okay. But yeah, no, it's like, this is, as somebody whose whole thing is writing, this is so incredibly frustrating to watch. Like, it really is. Having to stop every 5 minutes and just go through the basics of like narrative writing. Like, it is actually just infuriating, but I'm still going to do it.
Far in 40K, the biggest changes made were ones people seem to be not particularly fussed about, which I think speaks volumes about really how sincerely people might talk about this issue, or if it's just certain specific changes they dislike at some personal level.
If he mentions
Necron lore change many years ago was massive back in the day, but it's never really sparked the seething outrage or calls for a return to the original veins of their narrative that you might see now.
Luetin, where the fuck were you when that Necron Codex came out? Okay, because let me tell you something. Boots on the ground, and from a boots on the ground and hobby stores perspective, from when that book came out, there were a lot of people who didn't like it. There were a lot of people who did not like the idea that Necrons had a personality, and Necrons had personalities and character and things like that. There were people honestly preferred the metal Tyranids thing. And you want to know the thing too? You want to know who these people were?
Hello there.
Who preferred it? Oh, hello, the moronic moron. How you doing? Do you want to know who it was who preferred the old Necrons? It was Necron players. Oh, hey, Max. How you doing? Hold on. One moment, Max. Let me get you a shout out here. Why can't I type in? What's Luetin done now? Luetin has unfortunately decided that we can't have nice things as 40K fans. He's bitching and moaning about the new tanks in the Imperial Guard, saying they can't exist, but is totally okay with like female custodes because of course he is, right? Fuck, hold on. Chat's being a. Why can I not select anything on that? Okay. Is it gonna work now? Can I select things in chat now? Okay. Let me give Maximilian a shout out. If y'all on Twitch, go follow Maxi. He's a cool guy. You know what? By the way, Maxi, we need to collab again soon. It's been a while, and I would like to collaborate with you again on something. We'll have to figure something out. Luetin is being retarded. Exactly. Like, oh yeah, keep missing each other. Yeah, just DM me. We can iron something out. But, right, like, he's basically he's twisting himself into a knot to try to say like you can have female custodes, but you can't have new guard tanks. That's the long and short of it. Oh, one moment. That was Godzilla09. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to Crusade. How you doing? All right, let's get this going again.
Well, recently there was the shifts made with the Dark Imperium trilogy. That was one of the biggest changes which has occurred in recent times. And I've mentioned this before, but essentially they just reset things heavily in terms of dates and events as to Guilliman's Crusade, the Indomitus time, the timings of the Rift, and what happened thereafter. In this instance,
I'm gonna point out about the I'm gonna point this out about the it was the 9th edition. It was a retcon. It was a retcon. The 9th edition retcon of the timeline of the Indomitus Crusade. Basically, all they did was, like, literally, it was just a time crunch. It was just a time crunch. The thing that was most affected by all of that was the Dark Imperium trilogy that they had to do a couple of rewrites on to accommodate it into the timeline. That was literally the only thing affected by that. It's not as big a retcon as you would imagine. Its status as a retcon is incredibly overhyped as its impact as a retcon. Can't wait to get my dog water opinions on stream again, 40K wise. Honestly, Maxi, next time we collab, we should collab on something 40K related. Like if you have any of the games, like 40K games, like Space Marine 2, Dark Tide, something like that. All right, let's unpause this.
Also, I do think it was actually necessary, and the fact that it could be done without ripping everything apart because of how 40K is structured, as we just outlined, supported such a huge shift around surprisingly well. And I think that's why you didn't see people losing their mind about it and 100 videos with people foaming at the mouth.
Well, I mean,
saying, this is the end of 40K, they've ruined the Dark Imperium trilogy. You didn't have any of that.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, to be completely unfair to Luetin, 8th edition lore kind of sucked. So, time crunching the Indomitus Crusade from 200 years down to like 25 to 30. Yeah, not that big a deal.
That really, because that very significant update became pretty much little more than a footnote, despite the fact it vastly overhauled the timeline of contemporary Imperial events. From what I recall,
I mean, not vastly at all.
It was barely a single day's news because it ultimately changed little in the broader context other than the order of events. But objectively, it was a big deal. It just also wasn't neck-breakingly jarring.
And it really wasn't a big deal. It was
less significant.
Like, not much happened in that
period. Adding in a couple of new guard transports does feel more jarring. And it's simply down to one thing that I never stop talking about, and that is its context.
Okay.
Now, for anyone who says I don't do my research, I wanted to point out that there is, in fact, a precedent for the hippogriff, or sort of, anyway. You see, back in the days of the glorious second edition of 40k, things were a little more loose around the edges. Conversions were welcome,
Call
and
in the
often even saw these in
hello.
official material.
One moment. We've got a raid. Let me find. Oh, just got my OBS minimized. Hey, Denzel, thank you for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. How you doing? What are we doing? Oh, you're playing Dawn of War. Oh, hey. Nice. You're diving right into a 40k related stream where we're dunking on Luetin as he makes really dog shit takes about 40k lore, specifically the new Imperial Guard tanks. Anyway, Raiders, if you don't know who I am, I'm Marshal Beaumont, completely legally distinct Space Marine, and Space Marine and Space Templar. And like I said, we're shitting on Luetin's bad 40k takes right now. Denzel, if you gotta go, like if you're tired, gotta, take a break, something, go get food, or if you just want to lurk, that's cool. We're also playing Dune in the background. So yeah, because like I said, if I don't occupy my brain with something during this, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Because of this, dog water lore analysis by Luetin. But anyway, let's unpause.
Which would be almost unimaginable, although it is starting to come back a little on the edges these days. Alongside official publications like White Dwarf, you also had supplements like the Citadel Journal. And there was, in 1996, a small 2-page article which decided to provide rules for some custom-built Imperial Guard recon vehicles, which were obviously based around World War II platforms. These were called the Centaur and the Minotaur. This article is problematic, not only because the later Forge World Krieg tractor would also be called a Centaur, but because this is the issue GW has, and the crux of my whole discussion when it comes to lore, STC and canonicity. You see, the Centaur and Minotaur in this article could have just provided rules for some custom vehicles and be done with it. But instead, they decided to, or more correctly, probably got authorized to provide a bit of lore, but it would have been just written on the fly, as was typical. And the thing is, it's never really been suggested anywhere since then that this doesn't stand even today. It's likely because they were never mentioned in 30 years, and because they never had official models other than these converted ones. Nonetheless, the material is written as lore in an official publication, therefore, unless contradicted, it stands. So the issue now is if this
is so, like, I keep coming back to this, and I'm so sorry, everyone. He keeps talking like he knows how canon works in the objective literary sense, and then will go back and say, oh, there's no canon, guys. Like, I really... It is so frustrating to me. It is actually just frustrating how this man actively chooses to contradict himself at every turn on the matter of canon. Was it White Dwarf mostly just non-canon battle magazines? White Dwarf will do official lore publications, yes. It will do official lore publications. A lot of things like, say, Index Astartes lore on chapters comes from White Dwarf, for example. The Index Astartes Blood Ravens that I mentioned earlier comes from White Dwarf. And that's official canon. So, yeah. White Dwarf will publish official canon. But it's like, I don't know, it just frustrates me. He's always like, there's no canon. By the way, here, I'm going to describe canon in the objective literary sense, thereby proving the fact that I believe it exists in 40k, but there's no canon, you guys. Like, I don't consider myself an expert on 40k. I will never consider myself an expert on it. because nobody can be an expert, but I do consider myself an expert on writing and narrative and storytelling. So, yeah. To say this is like watching somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about teach a class is an understatement.
Stuff is still good. Why wasn't it mentioned at all with the new vehicles, the arrival of the Hippogriff, which is very obviously a descendant of these early versions? And that's even because the article describes how the development of the Centaur for the Imperial Guard created a family of vehicles. It talks about the role of Imperial Guard recon units. The Guard tried modified versions of Chimera and Leman Russ, but these were too slow, so they developed these scout vehicles using, quote, the powerful Leman Russ engine was fitted into a shortened Chimera chassis, while a four-wheel drive system gave the stability and maneuverability required. The Centaur was easily capable of outrunning all but the very fastest of vehicles and make those that could keep up seriously regretted. The Centaur has given birth to a whole family of variants, one of the better known being the Minotaur. Like me, you might be thinking, hold on, this sounds a lot like heresy. Heresy, in my Imperial Guard, free-thinking vehicle development based on necessity, not wholly STC? It even goes on to state, since its conception, the Centaur family has become a common sight on battlefields of the 41st millennium, not only in the reconnaissance role, but as a light tank, giving vital close support to foot troops. Squadrons of Centaurs have already been used for raids behind enemy lines, hunting command posts, ammo and fuel dumps and artillery positions. To which you'd say, the what? The conception? The conception of the Centaur family? A random human thought up how to make a vehicle? The tech priests are just vomiting on the floor oil and coolant right now. But this is
I'm going to let him keep talking, but I've got a lot to say.
Irregularity in law when it comes to STC, but also specifically to these vehicles. The idea of somebody just creating a vehicle for the Guard is head exploding. And the fact they decided not to continue on with this bizarre tangent from 1996, reframe it, whatever,
hold up.
instead going with the generic, yeah, they've always existed frame.
Okay. First of all, Luis Godinez, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Crusade. So, okay, here's where I have to interject and rant again. Luetin, I don't know how to tell you this. People in the 40K universe invent shit. I don't know how to put this any way but blunt. People in the 40K universe, in the Imperium of Man, invent new shit all the time. There are entire vehicles that did not exist until somebody invented it. You want to know two great examples? The Razorback and the Land Raider Crusader. Or how about the Land Raider Prometheus? Or guess what? A lot of the Land Raider variants were built not because they found an STC variant, but out of necessity. The Black Templars invented the Land Raider Crusader. They took out the last cannons, they bolted a bunch of bolters together, basically inventing the Hurricane Bolter in the process, in order to make room for more Terminators in the tank, so they could drive it up to the walls of a siege they were engaged in and break the siege. And then the AdMechs saw they did it and weren't necessarily happy. But you know what else happened? They petitioned the AdMech to make it an official vehicle. So the AdMech deliberated for a while, and eventually the Land Raider Crusader became a recognized pattern of Land Raider, heavy transport tank, battle tank. And yeah, it's like that's where it came from. The Razorback, I can't remember all the Razorback lore off the top of my head, but the Razorback was another example of that. Basically sacrificing some, transport capacity on a Rhino to put a gun turret on it, like a heavy gun turret, a heavy bolter, a las cannon, assault cannon, something like that. Like, people do this shit in universe. They build new things. You can't just build it and then obviously throw it out there forever to be used. There is a approval process to go through with the AdMech to go over the design, sanctify it, approve it for production. But vehicles get invented. It's not, new things are invented all the time. The reason, okay, and I know for a fact he's gonna bring up Call. He's gonna bring up Call inventing those new Space Marine tanks. The big thing with Call that almost got him in trouble, not gonna lie, if it's because of stuff like this, why I don't really pay attention to the modern lore of 40k anymore. I'm gonna be honest, Maxie, there are major hiccups in the lore in terms of the quality of writing. Female Custodes stands out commonly as basically the modern example. I would say though, things are not as bad as a lot of people think. There's a lot of Stravidium out here right now. But more to the point, like the problem with Call just inventing new shit like off the top of his head, just pulled out of his ass, is not that he invented new shit, it's that he didn't go through the AdMech required approval process to do it. He just threw it out there into the world and was like, oh, what, you don't like it? Fucking cry about it. You know, like that was the problem. It's not that he invented new things. It's that he invented new things and didn't go through the process of approval. He didn't get it sanctified and approved by the AdMech. Call is old school Mechanicum from the Heresy era. So he did what the old school Mechanicum, like he followed, would have done. Just present it to the Emperor, or in this case, Rabuta Gilliman, and be like, hey, look what I made. You like it? And then he said, yeah, I like it. And that was all he needed, because the Emperor would have done that back in the day. So, yeah. Sorry, Luetin, but no, this is not like proving that they're not following STC lore anymore. Well, you're going by these vehicles. Like we're going by these vehicles specifically that he's bringing up here, like the ones like the custom vehicles rules. What it shows is that yes, sometimes the Imperium will actually invent a new thing. Not only will they invent a new thing, they will you know, the AdMech will actually approve that thing, and a new family of vehicles will be spawned. This happens. This happens in the lore. It doesn't happen often, but it happens. And it's a wide enough galaxy that yes, it might have happened in this instance with these custom guard vehicles from this, you know, White Dwarf entry you're citing. So yeah, no, this is not an argument, Luke. This is not an argument against the vehicles.
Is a curious one. Now, as we'll get to later, I made a community post for you guys to contribute your thoughts about this topic, and I'm going to cover a couple of those later on. But one of the common opinions I saw was along the lines of, well, this was always a thing, it's just how 40k is in terms of these new guard vehicles, which I really don't accept, unfortunately, because for the longest time, there were technically solid...
It doesn't matter if you accept it or not, Luetin. It hasn't done anything wrong.
...rules about how the Imperium acquired its technology. There are strict applications as to how new equipment would appear. A new tank, for example, should at least be described in some sense as having had its STC discovered after some event or location. At the very least, the implication that it worked upon an STC format. The Macarius tanks are a good example of what we should expect. In stark contrast to something like the Rogel Dawn, which appeared with very little information about how that came into being. But I think the Rogel Dawn got a pass in that regard simply because it's a pretty epic looking tank. It's also a fantastic kit to build. But the new tanks for the Guard we've seen lately have been framed with language which makes...
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Luetin, Luetin, I don't know how to put this in any way other than bluntly. I like it, so that makes it okay. That is not how this works. If you like the Rogel Dawn, if you think the Rogel Dawn is okay because you like it, then you can't argue it's not okay because I don't like it. You don't get to be the arbiter of what is okay based on your personal tastes. Didn't the Rogel Dawn have its underside missing? It has a missing panel on the underside, yes, but I'm gonna be completely honest. With how annoying it can be to place tanks on terrain, I'm perfectly okay with that. Well, like, I'm perfectly okay with that as a guy who has broken tanks by having them drop off terrain in the past. Like that's my generational trauma of, you know, assembling 40K models speaking. Why is Luetin complaining about APCs? We have a shit ton of APCs in the US military and different reasons not one can do all jobs. Well, he's trying to argue that they can't exist in canon because the AdMech, because okay, you'll see. He's getting there. He's getting there.
Makes them sound as if they were always in use for millennia. And if you missed that, that's on you, which I really do find irritating. You don't have to frame them that way. You could simply state how they were rediscovered, and although their STC template was a more basic variant of an adjacent vehicle like the Taurox, or for example on Necromunda, the Tauros Venator, the simplicity of their design meant that by mid-M41 their production had exploded and now they've become an integral transport platform for the God. What's wrong with that? You can essentially crowbar them in, but just make it have a little more sense than, yeah, we never mentioned it, but yeah, they're everywhere. Again, the Macarius. I believe it arrived somewhere around the end of the 4th edition of 40k, but the lore didn't catch up until the mid or end of 5th edition, and finally it was referenced in detail, their origin and STC basis, and that was extremely well written into the Imperial armor books.
Wait. So now you're okay with it as long as they do it later. So the Macarial having, the Macarius tank having no lore when it came out is okay, but this isn't. And
it made perfect sense. You can easily accept it because it's written in a way which slots it into the in-fiction
but it
verse.
wasn't when it came out, and you were
really
okay with it.
More complicated than that. I think it also demonstrates that you don't necessarily have to rush the specific explanations for the background either. In many ways, I'd be happy if there was no explanation, if it was just like, yeah, these are coming in this new box set, and then a little bit down the line you get added information about them. So instead you could start with just smaller lore references, in-fiction fragments which fill out the sidebars of a codex or campaign books. Such and such was found after a long campaign which...
If them filling out the details later is okay, then you can't complain about it now. You're accepting vehicles that didn't get explanations till later just because the lore is there. That means if you're not okay with it having no proper explanation when it comes out, you cannot pick and choose where that's okay for you. You cannot pick and choose where that's okay for you. You are being a hypocrite about the lore. This is so dumb, I can't handle it. Denzel, how do you think I feel about it? I gotta watch the whole video. Have a good evening, dude. Have a good evening.
Saw 2 hive cities destroyed, etc. Now, I don't really particularly care what the origin of X thing would be. Rightly, many of you have pointed out that in a galactic empire, there will be obviously some vehicles localized to certain areas, numerous different points of origin, including but not necessarily limited to being STC based. The problem is that within the lore of 40k, STCs are not just some token throwaway mention as to the way technology works. They are, and remain, established that any technology produced outside of the management and the oversight of the Mechanicus, i.e. those who did not adhere to the holy cult of the machine, would face the brutal judgment of the Prefecture Magisterium. Essentially,
Luetin, the Razorback and the Land Raider Crusader exist. That right there is the only counter argument you need. The Land Raider Crusader and the Razorback exist. Neither were STC patterns. They were created after the fact. The Crusader is especially the best example. It's the one I know the most of the two, being a Black Templar fan. So yeah, they were just invented. Like, they made brand new weapon systems, everything for them. Like the Hurricane Bolter did not exist until the Black Templars invented it. So, yeah, no, it really feels like he's trying to ignore things to justify his subjective dislike of a new kit. Like that's what this feels like. He doesn't like the kit, so he's tying himself into knots to try to justify, oh, it's actually not canon, you guys. You know, because they didn't do it right. And then, yeah, like this feels like post hoc justification for him and not an actual argument using the lore.
It's not to suggest that random vehicles or other tech doesn't exist. It's more the question of how long will that remain under the radar of the Mechanicus, and that could even extend to, say, Commander or Inquisitor makes use of such technology to get whatever campaign they're managing concluded, but for the Imperial Guard, who is supplied by Forge Worlds, to be using broadly a vehicle that isn't based on an STC format should be essentially impossible. Now that's not to suggest that new vehicles will not have an STC origin reference later as per the Macarius. It's very possible that we will see that with those new guard vehicles, and I imagine that they may well do that later on through other campaigns.
Then if you acknowledge that they might do it later, then what's the problem? Again, if you're okay with them doing it later, then I don't know what you're getting mad about. It's like, is he just content farming right now? Like, I'm starting to think this might be just him content farming, because, yeah, he's effectively destroying his own argument with this logic he's putting forward. That he doesn't really mind it. He doesn't really mind it because maybe they'll justify it later. And, right, I'm gonna pause it.
Supplementary material, whatever. But this isn't the issue, and it isn't what avoids it being jarring, because the language which has been used initially in how these have been presented to us is that these things exist for a long time.
Oh, hold on.
They've done that without any supporting material of...
Thank you for the $5 super chat, Nolly82222.
From what I know, the Imperium does make new things. They are just very slow about it because they can't afford to experiment in the constant war state.
Okay, let me elaborate. It's not that they can't afford to experiment. It's that there's an entire dogmatic process among the AdMech to basically go over and approve of new vehicles. Like new vehicles do pop up, but there's a very long approval process by the AdMech to say, okay, we sanctify this vehicle to be mass produced. It does happen, but there's a long process involved. Like, I want to say it was like the Razorback took like 200 years to be approved or something like that. I don't remember the exact time table for the Land Raider Crusader, which I cited earlier, but yeah, that was another one. Again, whole new weapon systems got designed and approved for use by all Space Marine chapters. But yeah, it's not that, things don't get invented or can't be invented. They do get invented. I also take issue with Luetin saying it's impossible for the Imperial Guard. It's like, no, I don't think it would be impossible for the Imperial Guard. If anything, I think it would happen more commonly in the Imperial Guard, just through sheer necessity. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, modification and experimentation of vehicles would actually happen more commonly in the Guard, who are, gonna be like, fuck it, we need to get the job done, and not have that, like, not be as dogmatic as the Astartes. So, yeah, I feel like the idea that, the Guard would never do this. Like, I feel like actually the Guard would have a higher propensity of doing such a thing. I'm also gonna go against his argument saying that, oh, they've always been in use, like, is a bad thing in this case. It's really not. Like, look, okay, this is some, okay, so I commented on this on Twitter, and I was, like, sort of inspired to react to this from commenting on that. But in a setting as large and wide and deep as Warhammer 40,000, It is entirely possible we have not seen the breadth of vehicle, the total breadth of vehicles that are used on the daily by the Imperial Guard, just based on the limited breadth of minis available for Guard on tabletop. The Gaunt's Ghost series by itself mentions Guard vehicles that apparently exist, but we have never seen a model of, all the time. Like there's a whole bit in the Gaunt's Ghost novels that the planet of Urdesh, the big Forge world in the Sabbat worlds, was taken over by chaos, and as a result, vehicles produced on. Oh, thank you again, Nolly, for another $5 super chat.
I mentioned it, but the 6-wheeled armored car with the cannon sounds like a vehicle designed in the Sabbat Crusades. Why not say it's from the Crusades?
Okay. Okay, I'll get to that in a moment. I want to finish the train of thought I was on. All right. So hold up. So, yeah, the Sabbat Worlds Crusade novels, they go over vehicles produced on Urdesh that the Guard no longer have access to because it got taken over by Chaos, and now Chaos uses those vehicles. Like there's a big tank battle in Honor Guard involving those tanks. I forget what they're called off the top of my head, but there's a big tank battle in the book Honor Guard where, the Sabbat, the 10th First and Only and their tanker allies from another regiment are fighting these Chaos. They're more like light tanks, but they're fighting them, and the reason the Guard can't get them anymore is because Urdesh was taken over, and Urdesh was the local supplier. But we have never seen these tanks on tabletop, ever. We've never seen them on tabletop. They only exist in the text of the Gaunt's Ghost books. So the idea that we've seen all the Guard vehicles there is to see and anything else could never have existed, to say that is completely asinine and ignoring that there can be things out there we have not seen yet, and it doesn't necessarily have to be brand new. Like the Rogel Dorn does not have to be brand new to enter the scene. It can be something that, existed before and we just hadn't seen yet. Because that's the point of 40K as a vast, deep setting, that there are things we haven't seen. And those things can pop up. It's one of the beauties of 40K that it's such a wide setting that can have new things appear that we've just never brought up before. And like that's a beauty of the setting. And again, with things where you can rationally believe that, like a vehicle or a gun pattern, or, a vehicle, a gun pattern, something like that. Like, we see brand new, we see brand new auto gun patterns all the fucking time. Do you want to know why? It would be impossible to catalog all the potential patterns for auto gun in the Imperium of Man. It would be actually physically impossible. There are so many patterns of auto gun that finding a lost guardsman vehicle, it's a PT Cruiser with a heavy las gun on top. I'd drive that into battle. But yeah, no, it's like there's so many potential patterns and variants that we just probably haven't seen because of how wide open the setting is. And it's like, that's a beautiful thing. It means there's more to see and dig into and all that. And the idea that just because they don't strictly mention where it came from doesn't mean that, it's some kind of lore violation, or like, I think it sounds like what Luetin is trying to go into, retconning STCs just because they didn't give, some hard-nailed date as to the origin of these vehicles. So, yeah, it's like, Luetin, this isn't how this works. You are making a mountain out of a molehill. And I feel like it's just because you don't like the kits. Like, because you've said yourself, you like the You're okay with the Rogel Dorn battle tank because it looks cool, but you're not okay with these. And I think you just don't like the kits, and you're coping to come up with an excuse as to why they can't exist.
Of since X campaign, or describing them being used more heavily since a certain date or since a discovery, and that's what feels off. Also, if you've not heard of the Prefecture Magisterium before, I don't blame you, because that's barely mentioned anywhere, but it is technically still a thing. They're effectively the Inquisition for the Mechanicus, and they're charged with preserving dogma, persecuting heretics, remember that's tech with a T-E-K. They're said to exist on all Forge worlds, but little more is known of them, plus the reference is from the time of the heresy, so there's a bit of a question mark there. Again, this is a flawless example of how you cannot necessarily trust whether certain things are still around, still exist in terms of the lore, just because it was referenced long ago. But the Mechanicus tend to change less than other departments of the Imperium, so it's very possible those are still a thing. In the more recent Warhammer crime novels, especially Flesh and Steel, we saw an example of perhaps an equivalent contemporary character to that department, Row 1 Lux, who belonged to the Collegiate Extremis, who are also a group within the Mechanicus who hunt down any who are accused
Still haven't gotten assault Toyotas for the Guard. Okay.
The point is, the existence...
Calamine, I'm going to be 100% with you. If they introduced new vehicles into the Guard that were just Toyota Technicals, I'd be over the fucking moon. Toyota Technicals are fucking rad. Like, okay, like I get that the Syrian militants and all that are basically terrorists, but man, they know how to jury rig an assault vehicle, man. Hats off to those guys. That Thopter is so talented in their flight. Okay, you know what? I was about to ask if that was Krypton because I knew he was in chat. Now I know it's you, Pascal. Hello, Pascal. How you doing? How's the flying up there? I'm driving the buggy back now if you want to use it. So, yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back at the base momentarily. I'm on my way back. I didn't want to see if any more Plastanium has spawned since I've last got out. That Thopter really seems to be following you. It's Pascal. It's Pascal in chat following me around. He's one of the homies, and he's in our Dune guild as well. So. I think he's trying to tell me he wants to take the buggy out and mine Plastanium for his base. So yeah, I'll bring the cart back now, or the buggy back, and they'll be able to take it out. I'll even fill up the tank for you.
Of these groups notwithstanding, it has become readily apparent that over the decades, the view of if it's not STC, it's not getting made, has softened to the point where, like I said now, it seems almost anything goes. And as I said earlier, the continued existence of Belisarius' Call alone makes that readily apparent, although saying that Call continues to be, as far as we know, more of an exception and not the norm. In fact, it's very questionable if anyone could achieve what Call has done, for he really does stand as a unique individual. When it comes to STC and also the concept of canonicity...
Okay, I said this at the start of the video, and I'm going to repeat it here. The idea, you implying that STCs are no longer canon because of two Guard vehicles is the epitome of histrionic hyperbole. And nobody should be taking what you say seriously in this regard.
I feel we can carry on without needing to drag through it all. But I do think it's worthwhile to just remember that as much as we discuss new vehicles for the Guard, such things are introduced in this deliberately vague manner, and that I think is hard to argue as being anything other than quite clearly by design, which ties into also that reduction of references to the M dates. I think essentially when it comes to context, there may have been some kind of conclusion made that the 40k galaxy is becoming too complex in terms of the amount of events, discoveries, and so on, which are all locked to specific dates, events, times, places, because for writers I would imagine this becomes a minefield, having to continually cross-reference vast amounts of previous lore and cross-check that. It's understandably challenging. But understandable or not, I'm not sure it's any better to start making things increasingly vague with no clear tie to any kind of chronology, no matter how screwed up Imperial time archiving is. And as I always say, context is everything. But more specifically, context is acutely problematic for the Imperium, because with other factions in 40k, you just don't have the same issues. The Necrons, Votann or Tau, I'll speak to this more soon, but they don't adhere to some religious machine cult who dictate what can and can't be made. It's incredibly easy to just say with basically any other faction in 40k, oh yeah, they've got this now. Why? They invented it. They rediscovered it. They reverse engineered it. They made a less or better version of something they found.
Luetin, you can literally do that with the Imperium. You can literally do that with the Imperium. You're... Luetin, you can do that. Oh, Pascal, if you can hear me, by the way, if you want to take the buggy out to go mining, go right ahead. I gassed it up for you, grab some batteries and head out. But anyway, Luetin, you can literally do that with the Imperium. You've cited how they did it with the Imperium in a way that pleased you, arguing that, oh, you can't just add new things with the Imperium. Like, you literally can. You literally can, and they have, and you cited examples in your own video. The kin revere the Votann, does that count? Yeah, but the Votann, or the kin are also way more likely to just invent a new thing, you know, than like. Okay, I have to put this in the proper context of Admech versus the kin. The Admech can and have invented new things. Again, goes through a super long approval process, but they do just do it. The kin will just slap a new gun together and say, here's a new gun. Who are the kin again? The space dwarves, also known as the squats. The leagues of Votann are, okay, context on the name, the Votann are the AI ancestor cores that the kin revere and worship. The kin are the people of the leagues are the faction itself. So the Leagues of Votann is a faction name, not a people name. The people of the leagues are called the kin. And that's the regular dwarf kin and the iron kin, who are basically the men of iron. Yeah, the Imperium can just invent things or add new things. Like, okay, I'm just gonna unpause it.
Basically anything you like, and it's all 100% fine because they're not bound by the rules of the cult Mechanicus, and the Mechanicus are the ones producing the bulk of hardware for the Imperium. Basically, if you didn't have their doctrine strangling the Imperium, things would be very different. But that isn't the case, and so you have this situation where new things coming out of thin air feels extraordinarily jarring, gaslighty, and in general, you need to strongly justify where this new thing that we haven't seen before came from and how it fits in. Because trust me, it's always been there, isn't cutting it.
But hey, remember guys, but he also said Call could just invent female custodes. Call can apparently pull female custodes out of his ass, but you know, a tank that maybe wasn't mentioned before is a bridge too far. Okay, right. Yeah, sure. Sure, man.
So with that in mind, it's the Imperium are the ones facing this issue acutely compared to these other factions. And it's not just the new guard vehicles either. There's been a swath of other new units, even Titan variants like the Direwolf Scout Titans, which are on the more acceptable side of things being effectively just a variant of a Warhound, but nonetheless they're new, alongside the Titan you may never have heard of, the Warmaster Heavy Battle Titan, and again, like I said, you've got stuff like the Rogal Dawn. You've also got this new Bellatus Pattern Knight, which arrived very recently. Same situation, where basically it's described role and tactical capabilities, but nothing about how or why this thing is suddenly present when it was not before. But nothing about how or why this thing is suddenly present when it was not before. When the Warmaster Battle Titan arrived, many people rightly felt, well, wait a minute, there's now a different Titan? It's not a Warlord or an Imperator? and we've never seen or heard anything about this before. And you might think, well, that fits into this format of something being pretty jarring. And I felt the same initially, except that when they actually went into the background of how the Warmaster Titan came into the narrative, and also the fact that Adeptus Titanicus was set in the heresy period, not the contemporary M41 time, things made more sense. Because the Warmaster is basically described in the supporting material as appearing before the Imperium, but remaining a closely guarded secret by the Mechanicum even until the late Horus Heresy, due to its rarity and extreme devastating power. Now, that's a great opening for introducing something new. It fits within the factional lore, and it's very believable for the Mechanicum to just keep something like this under wraps. And so this is a perfect example of how if you want to bring something in and you write...
Do we know why the female genome is incompatible with gene seed? It is literally, gene seed requires an XY chromosome and high amounts of testosterone to even function. You can hear your brain snoring. Yeah, me too. I kind of just want this to be over at this point. This is actually mind-numbing to put up with. This fucking mealy-mouthed, namby-pamby bullshit from Luetin here. Hold up, my game's loading. The game's loading. I'll be out in the sand when I get in, so I don't get wormed on. There we go. Get myself gliding, and there we go. So unpause this.
Contextually well thought out material, you can just accept it and say, yeah, sure, that works. Now, I think if this was being released now, they'd have probably just left it at that. They'd have just said, oh yeah, the Mechanicum always had this, but they just didn't want to roll it out until now. But yeah, they were always around. Well, that's not where they left it. It said that they were distributed across Forge Worlds in the galaxy, but in very small numbers. They were essentially an ace card Titan to pull out once a home planet's existence was at stake. That's why you never saw them. The first open use of Warmaster Titans, therefore, quite correctly, came during the heresy in the Schism of Mars, when everything is on the line. The Warmaster's deployment saw entire Titan maniples being destroyed by this singular titanic monstrosity. But they also noted that there were those like the infamous Legio Mortis who were seen to reveal a hidden, larger stock of Warmaster Titans which caused untold devastation for loyalists. And the lore even rationalizes this, given that Mortis had acquired a number of Warmaster due to their allegiance with Kelbor Hal, the then traitor Fabricator General of Mars. One of the easiest ways for them to still be vague about such a war machine is in observing that the exact number of Warmaster Titans, which existed prior to the heresy, remained unknown. Totally plausible, but that even for the more powerful Legio, they were still only able to field a handful. For example, the well-known Legio Griffonicus and Legio Crucius only having 3 and 2 Warmaster respectively. So it's not expanded upon, but the fact that Warmasters are not seen commonly or even all in the contemporary setting of M41 makes perfect sense, given their already extreme rarity in the heresy. So 10,000 years later, if any Warmaster do exist, they are likely singular exceptions confined to the vaults of Legios or the Mechanicus. Now, I wanted to include this because it is, for me, an example of a perfect inclusion of how you create the background for a new machine of war to be placed into the lore for the Imperium. They're rare already in the heresy, they're unlikely to be seen in M41, it works perfectly for that game system based in that era. Now, for the more contemporary machines, that is more difficult, but there are many options as to how they could appear. Basically, anything though other than just in a tone of it's been in use for millennia, we just never mentioned it. More importantly though, as I said in the end of the last section, this is a problem which does exist exclusively really for the Imperium, and given that, you'd think this would be something that will be at the forefront of introducing any new technical assets for the Imperium or Guard, whereas the Tau can basically introduce anything new as and when they want, because it's the Tau. They got zero restrictions on their ability to invent.
I'm not gonna lie, the longer this goes on, the more it just sounds like to me that Luetin is having an Imperium bad moment here. You know? He keeps bringing it up like the Imperium uniquely cannot have a new thing. You know? How dare the Imperium have a new tank? How dare the Imperium, get an edge in some way? Oh, but the Tau? That's okay. They can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. They can have whatever they want. It doesn't matter. You know, it's like, I'm sorry, Luetin. You know what I'm doing? I'm officially calling it now. I'm calling you being biased in this case. You are jumping through hoops to justify how the Imperium can't have new vehicles because you don't like it. But you're totally okay with the Tau or other Xenos or even Chaos having new things. You're going out, you've even, titled this part of the video an Imperial problem. I think you are just mad that the Imperium got a W in terms of new vehicles. And that just upsets you because, you're like, fucking Reddit coded ass low lore YouTuber like all the others. So the Imperium getting any kind of leg up with anything new actually just triggers you. And all of this stems from that. I'm honestly very tempted to shut the video off right here because I'm getting sick of him trying to jump through hoops to justify a complete non-issue to himself. He's really arguing it to, and that's the thing too. It comes off like he's trying to convince himself and not the viewer.
Similarly, the likes of the Orc or the Tyrannid. Anything goes, basically. Chaos, the same. They can just pull whatever they want out because they've got the Dark Mechanicum and the Infinite Void. The Eldar, I think, are a little more restrictive, as are the Necron, only because, to a degree, it's presumed basically we've seen what they've got at this point. However, both should theoretically be more than capable of producing something new should they need or choose to. Or rationalizing they find an ancient vault of objectively new war machines, the Eldar maybe in the Webway, because they've got literally millions of years behind them. So I think it would be very absurd to suggest that they couldn't have just misplaced something.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Or find a way to remove something they found in state.
There it is. Everybody else can have something new except the Imperium. There it fucking is, everyone. Did I call that or what? Were my predictive powers on point or were they on fucking point? Shit. I literally have nowhere to park. Oh, god damn it. Okay, I'm gonna have to wedge my Thopter in there really hard. Like, oh boy, did I call that or what? He is literally just, like, mad that the Imperium got a new vehicle. That's literally it. That's all this video. You know what? I'm done. I'm done watching this. Hold on, I gotta wedge my Thopter in there somehow. Come on. Okay, Thopter status wedged. You know what? I'm not, there's like 10 minutes of this video left. I'm not entertaining it with a further response. Fuck off, Luetin. Just fuck off. Okay? Just fuck off. I'm not even entertaining the rest of that fucking video. Oh, Christ almighty. Christ almighty. I want to borrow my forget this shit mallet and just bonk yourself in the head for, oh god, I wish it was that. I wish I could give myself some brain damage so I could like forget about this, what we just watched. Oh Jesus, my Christ. Okay, you know what? Hold on, I'm gonna hide that on the, I'm gonna redo the topic on YouTube. One moment. All right, topic done. I'm gonna change the title on YouTube. And done. There we go. Okay. Oh my, okay, I'm gonna be rambling about this for the rest of the night. But, you know, come the fuck on, man. Come the fuck on. An hour-long video just to say, Imperium got something nice, Like, actually go fuck yourself. Yeah, no, honestly, Luetin should run for politician I think he's in the UK. He should run for politician in the UK because it's kind of amazing how he could spend an hour rambling about 40k lore and say absolutely nothing. All right, I'm pretty certain that's Pascal next to me. Oh. Hey man, what's up? Oh, okay. What is proximity? Okay. Luetin loves to hear himself talk. Yeah, I'm convinced of that, honestly. Adam something only needed 22 minutes. Luetin apparently needed an hour. That's pain. Yeah. There we go. Just coordinating with Pascal here before I head off into the desert. If anything, the Eldari and Necron should have the least new tech because they refined their standard vehicles so much. Well, also the fact that they experienced full societal collapse and their entire industrial base is basically fucked. Hold on. Their entire inventive and industrial base is completely fucked from the fact their society completely collapsed. Like, we're talking like complete, I'm floating again? Okay. Complete, like, there's nothing left. There's nothing left for them at all. Like, they have no way to establish that industrial base they used to have. And that, you know, research base to invent new things. Like the Eldar are very explicitly called a dying people. They cannot invent new stuff. And the Dark Eldar are too, you know, coked out of their mind to even bother. So, yeah. All right, gonna go get my salt doctor. But yeah, no, it's like hours and hours, not hours and hours, but an hour-long video, and it really just boiled down to Imperium bad. I don't fucking believe it. I feel like I was trolled. I feel like I was trolled. Eldar literally destroyed themselves so hard they made the most stubborn motherfucker chaos god to end all chaos. Yeah, no, it's like the Eldar destroyed their society so hard that they birthed the chaos god into existence. Which is also funny when the Eldar blame chaos on humanity, which, you know, the mother of all copes. I'm I'm gonna be honest. It really feels like Luetin was either engagement farming, just engagement farming with his videos for views and money, or he was having an Imperium Re moment, you know? Oh my god. God, I'm gonna have a headache for the rest of the night over that. I don't fucking believe it. I don't fucking believe it. I actually don't Habib it. I'm just gonna spend the rest of the stream hunting for spice in the deep desert. I need to relax. I need to do something to cool my brain off now. But what little hair I've left on the top of my head is smoking right now. I mean, maybe Luetin wants Chapter Master Valrak's spot and he was blacklisted. Valrak's been blacklisted for a while. Let me talk about that for a minute. How the fuck? Okay. Okay. My model isn't animating. What the shit? That's not good. Okay, hold up. Let me find a rock real quick. I gotta fix this. He contradicted himself so many fucking times in that video. Okay, hold up. I need to land on a rock and I need to fix my avatar. It's not animating when I talk. That is annoying me. It's annoying me. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. It bothers me a lot. Okay, hold on. Oh, and there's a spice blow over there too, and I could be heading to that. No, I gotta fix technical issues. Okay, is this... Oh, okay, the application just froze. All right. Close the program. Cancel. Okay. I'll be back in a moment. Oh, okay. Okay, that's a spectacular shot of my chest plate, but... Hello? Am I back? I'm back! Okay. From what I've heard of GW contracts, they don't want influence. They want unpaid employees. I mean, yeah, that's basically it. They want unpaid employees. That's what they want. They want unpaid employees. And the deal with Valrak is that he hears a lot of rumors, and he's often right because the people who give him those rumors are GW employees. But rather than plug their leaky ship, they blacklist Valrak. Didn't the Eldar's ancestors also contribute to the warp becoming such a pain to navigate? Yeah, it was the war in heaven that created chaos as we know it. It created that malignant turbulence in the warp that births demons. The Imperium isn't even the worst in its own universe. Yeah, exactly, Nolly. I legit just put out a video with a rant about that the other day, and apparently got strangled by the YouTube algorithm, which I really don't understand how the YouTube algorithm works, because sometimes I'll put a video out, it'll get a couple thousand views, and sometimes it'll struggle to crest 500. I really don't understand it. That's a sandstorm. I think that's gonna miss me though. I should be fine. But yeah, no, I put a video about that, like, yesterday? Day before? I think it was yesterday. And that's basically, yeah, it's like, no, the Imperium is fucking tame compared to some of the other factions. Calling them the brutal regime imaginable is ridiculous, and they really needed to cut that out of the lore. Like, I get they thought it probably sounded cool when they thought of it, but yeah, no, it doesn't apply to the lore anymore. That worm is way over there, so I think there might be no one at this site. Maybe? That'd be nice. You'll have to hunt the video down there. It's literally the newest. It's literally the newest video on my YouTube. It's literally the newest one. Really easy to find. Oh, there's somebody here. Oh, there's a couple people here. Hey guys, there's a storm coming. You might want to get out. Okay, I'm gonna look for more spice blows. That one was eaten. There is a lot of you know, since they added the PvE deep desert, there's been a lot more Uh-oh. Okay, that's heading my way. So you know what? I'm gonna turn this way. Ever since the PvE deep desert update in this game has been so much more fun to play. You can actually go out and get the end game resources. It's really nice. I would actually say if you want to play this game, Dune Awakening, now is the time to get into it. Like, unironically, now is the time to get into it. With the PvE deep desert changes, you can get all the end game resources now without having to fucking die horribly to do it. That's no good. Uh-oh, that storm is almost... Wait.
Sector weather alert. A large sandstorm is approaching.
Oh, hold on. Maybe I can wedge myself in here. Nope. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. I picked the wrong I picked a bad hiding spot. Oh, holy shit. Okay, maybe this will work. There we go. Oh boy, I'm sliding. That's bad. Fuck it, I'm just gonna hover here. My favorite is when they point to the Imperial nobles oppressing the citizenry. Chances are great they're referring to villains of the story, particularly Chaos Acolytes. Yeah, exactly. It's like when people say the Imperial Guard commanders only ever use human wave tactics and don't use actual, like, military tactics. You know, just throw bodies at the problem. Characters like that are villains in the story, like General Dravir from First and Only. Like, yeah, being in the Imperial Guard is a dangerous fucking job. Don't get me wrong. You're probably going to die. But if Guard commanders weren't competent, they wouldn't win wars, which they do frequently. Guard need more men like Castor, American Retribution. I'm gonna be, yeah, honestly, like Reddit lore, which is like, you know, Reddit, you know, looking at the, you know, believing only the worst things about the Imperium with no further context, paints a really grim picture of the Guard. It's honestly not as bad as Reddit likes to make it look. The wars are brutal and violent, people die all the time, but the commanders aren't incompetent and use nothing but human wave tactics. 40k characters based on shitty communist military commanders who piss men and material away ruthlessly. Yeah, characters like that are shown to suck at their job in the lore and in the books, you know? Like, yeah, there are commanders like that, but there's context for those commanders. It's not just, you know, oh, all the Guard commanders are shit, and they treat their men as disposable assets that, like, you know, they can just piss away however they want. It's like, it's not how it works. Like, another one I'll bring up is everyone's like, oh, an Imperial Guardsman's life expectancy is only 15 hours. It's like, that's from a very specific battle in a very specific book called 15 Hours and not at all the norm. Like, the Guard have prosecuted wars that have been piss easy to fight. They've prosecuted wars that they've, like, you know, everyone's died to a man. There's variety in there. There's nuance. It's not just, oh, all the Guardsmen die because the commanders only know human wave tactics, blah, blah, blah. I'm so fucking tired of Reddit lore, and I'm so fucking tired of the lore YouTubers who push Reddit lore. Those commanders tend to get popped by their own troops. Yeah, no, exactly. It's like fucking the Caiaphas Cain books straight up say that the stereotype of the commissar doesn't live long because they get fragged by their own men. The reason Cain is such a nice commissar is because he didn't want to get fragged by his own men, because he knows what happens. He knows what happens to the ones who act like the stereotype. They're the tech workers who believe their tech jobs were adult daycare when it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's like, guess what? It turns out you can't just cite a fucking wiki and call it a day. You actually need to read fucking novels. You need to read novels and source books and lore entries and codexes and other rule books. You need to put in fucking work to do 40K lore videos. I don't have the personal resources to be that guy. That's why I don't do straight up lore videos. And I also realize I'm fucking retarded. I don't know everything about 40K lore. I know a lot, but I know that I know nothing. So yeah, like, I'm not going to go and call myself a lore expert when I'm not. And I'm not gonna act like, an authority because I'm not. Like, will I tell a motherfucker they're wrong if I know they're wrong? Yes, I will tell them they're wrong. But that doesn't mean I'm professing myself as some kind of expert of the lore. That means, hey, I know a thing, you're just wrong. Like, yeah. See, nothing of the RBDs. Look out, he's gonna enforce harsh Imperial law on a planet. The one arbitrator who got assigned to our yeah, it's... Like the deal with the RBDs is they really only get mobilized. They only get mobilized in force when when shit is really bad. I think they got a harvester on this site. They do. Oh, they're leaving. I think they're probably done now. Oh no. So. I'll never say no to free spice. Always have a blank as a friend. Yeah, Eisenhorn found that out. The hard way. He fell in love with her and he was a psyker. Oh, there's still spice here to be picked up. Okay. You two having fun up there? Uh-oh. Time for me to pack off. You remember Gaunt's Ghost book where they fought a civil war with World War I tactics and riding chocobos? Yes, that is, Straight Silver, I want to say. Great fucking book, that one, honestly. Great book, that one. Yeah, no, they fight, like, Gaunt makes a big point of how badly they're prosecuting the war. Like AX Cardinal, that's the planet. They make it is a point in the novel that Gaunt is like, wow, these motherfuckers suck at war. They're wasting their men and their material, and they're just not doing good at it. Like, holy shit. Like, Gaunt is appalled by how they're prosecuting the war and just wasting lives and resources and, you know, everything. And how they made no advancements in that time. It's such a major point of the book, and you're gonna tell me that human wave tactics and all that are normal? Hell no. If that was true, the Guard would never fucking win. And that's, frankly, an insult to the Guard. Hold on. Oh, there's some lag going on right now, and I'm not a fan of it. I'm gonna be honest. Read the fucking God's Ghost books if you had. Just the first one is called First and Only. Pick it up, read it. It's a linear series mostly. There's definitely some side story books you should add to it, like Double Eagle, which happens about halfway through the series. You know, like pick it up and read it. It's the single best Imperial Guard novel series in all of 40K. Have I read the Night Lords trilogy? A long time ago. Personally, I think ADB needs to be flogged for creating the modern Night Lords fan. Maybe he didn't intend to, but now we're at this point where, you know, there's people who legitimately love Night Lords for how awful they are. And then there's people who, you know, like, well, the Imperium is fascist and the Night Lords oppose the Imperium, so the Night Lords are good guys. And then there's true crime women who just get wet at the idea of Conrad Kurz being a murderous psychopath. Oh no, there's French people in the deep desert tonight. Dagnabbit. Give me worms, sandstorms, Harkonnen, anything but the French. Uh-oh. Gotta go. Gotta go. Your favorite of the guard are the Tempestus Scions and Catechins. Fuck you! I wasn't ready. Yeah, that was my Godzilla Roar jump scare redeem. Because I'm a huge Godzilla nerd, and also my chat likes to torment me. What, for what, a talent for my chat tormenting me? Yeah, I know. Like, you know what it is? It's fucking Ash. Ash enables it. Shai-Hulud, you leave me the fuck alone, you giant fucking living sand dildo. All right, you know what? This field is pretty well eaten. We're gonna move on. Okay, we're in I sector, so we're just gonna head west. Anything on our ass? No. Okay. Giant living sand dildo. What else would you describe Shai-Hulud as, you know? He's a giant living sand dildo. He just drills through this long, hard object that just drills through the sand all day. Eating people. A worm? I mean, he is a worm, but I mean, like, other than, you know, a worm. Obviously, he's a worm. Man, you know, it'd be really cash money if one of them giant spice fields just blew right in front of me. It was like, come Bohemond, collect our space drugs. And I would do it because I like money. Personally, a Krieger here was originally Katie and Glazer when it came to guard. Man, listen, I'm just glad we're getting Armageddon Steel Legion in 11th. Okay, that's all I really wanted, like model line wise, out of 11th, and we're getting it. So yeah. Well, there's one over there, but by the time I get there, it's going to be eaten. So yeah, we will keep looking. My kingdom for a large spice field. In other news, you want the Gorgon transport back. I remember that. Man, I want a lot of the Forge World guard units back in 40k, but I don't think they're gonna bring them back, honestly. I kind of wish they would, though. That would be very nice, honestly. Okay, it seems all the medium spice fields are out in that direction. But they also look like they've been up for a bit, so... Do I want to turn to... Yeah, fuck it, I'll turn toward this one, even though it'll probably be gone by the time I get there. I'm gonna be honest, even though there's more people in the deep desert now, I don't mind the resource race. It's actually kind of fun. Like the rat race of, you know, grabbing resources and... You know, hunting... Oh, another one just popped. I see that shockwave. Another one just popped. Is that like right next to it? Where are they going? Oh, they're going mining. Okay. They had they were carrying a mining buggy. Go get that worm shit. Yeah, no, listen, man. The spice blows all over the place. Let's get this bread. Okay, there's worms. Oh, this spice field was. This was one of the large fields. There was this one had activity. You know what? I'm gonna go check these fields out. See how consumed they are. Oh, that one's almost gone. I wonder where this one is. I want to say this one has been completely hoovered up. Okay, yeah. Deep Desert's busy tonight, though. You know, you'll love to see it. It was never this busy before they made it, you know, PvP optional. You know what? Fuck it. I'll grab some spice. Besides, activity on this field will, you know, cause the big daddy worm to show up. And that'll reset the field so another one can spawn. Duck under the Thopter. Get out of the sun. You wonder Catachan Raptor Rough Riders? That would be cool, honestly. That would be really cool. Like special Rough Riders for the Catachans that are just on Raptors. I mean, shit, you could probably model that yourself, honestly. There's probably third-party parts you can get somewhere. Put them on the Raptors from, you know, I want to say Lizardmen of Raptor Riders. You can, like, use those as a basis. Remember, kids, always convert your models if you want a specific thing. I wanted a dreadnought with a sword, so you know what I did? I made a dreadnought with a sword. At least air conditioning isn't lost tech, at least. Now there's air conditioners in 40K. You can run across one in Darktide. It even has a little purity seal on it. Forty out of 10 belch there. Yeah, I can do better. Yep, they're out grabbing spice. Remember, everyone, if you're gathering spice, if you're gathering spice in this game, never be too proud to, you know, not grab an already, you know, picked at field. What? Am I lagging super hard, or? Here we go. Nice line I can zap. Oh, hi, Nolly, thank you for the $10 super chat.
The Katakan had an old model you can see old lexiconum. So did the Talon Desert Raiders. This reminds me. 40K in epic scale. Final Liberation makes me think it's fun. Know anything about it?
Okay, so 40K epic 40K, as it used to be called, was the kind of the precursor to Apocalypse. Their idea of doing super huge, you know, 40K battles was to just have really small models, right? Eventually, though, they came out with Apocalypse, which is, you know, super large scale 40K games for your regular 40K armies. When Specialist Games folded, you know, Tom Kirby, the old CEO, shut it down. Basically Epic 40K died with it. When they brought it back as Legions Imperialis for Horus Heresy, which is like, it's not the same thing. It is unfortunately a pale imitation with barely any of the options. You used to be able to play everything in Epic 40K. Now, as far as, what do you call it is concerned, as far as, Final Liberation is concerned, honestly, one of the best 40K strategy games. Bit of an old game, but it's still a good game. Oh. There you are, Shai Halud. I was wondering what was keeping you. been gone for a bit. It's a shame all the expansions planned in-game and then they never made them. Oh, hold on. Yeah, well, you haven't heard of Final Liberation and Yonks. Yeah, no, Final Liberation is a fucking great game. And by the way, one of the best Commissar characters in all of 40K history is Commissar Holt. That cutscene of him, you know, belting the Imperial governor across the face and then threatening to shoot him if he doesn't fix his shit right then and there. Like, everybody who is a 40K fan has probably seen that cutscene and just doesn't know where it comes from. Hey, Salt, how you doing? Man says Commissar, I show up with my fancy hat. Well, you're captain, not a Commissar. That reminds me, hold on, let me get off the sand real quick. Let me get off the sand real quick. I will do this. I will do this. There you go. Go give Salt a follow. He's cool people. He just went through some tech hurdles. His computer decided to die on him and he got a new one, but you know, he's come back to streaming and is like, yeah, now he's a new computer to do it with. Salt likes stuff like Stellaris, Helldivers, you know, sci-fi stuff like me. We have very similar, you know, autistic obsessions. 4X, yeah, X4, yeah, X4 as well. I need to finally buckle the fuck up and play that game. I haven't stalled and everything, I just haven't played it. Probably because I've been busy with a lot of things recently. You legit vibe with me with a crash course. You know what? That might be necessary. That might be necessary for a first stream with it. You know, have you in the back seat the whole time. If you know, if I can get you on at the same time I stream. It's hella complex. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I mean, I was able to figure out Star Sector. I should be able to figure out X4. Oh, that was the sun going down over the hill. Okay. I thought fucking Godzilla was sneaking up on me or some shit. I mean, that'd be cool. I'd fanboy, trying to get his autograph. But all the same, you know? I was really asking for it that time, wasn't I? I was asking for it. I hear you rolling around out there, Shai Halud. Fucking rolling around at the speed of sound. You got places to go. You gotta follow your rainbow. Just don't follow it into my fucking thopter while I'm spice harvesting. Speaking of strategy games, I've heard that a game I've been waiting for, Transport Fever 3, will now be published by Paradox Interactive. I'm so sorry. I'm actually just so sorry. TLDR, early game 4X, X4 as you pilot ship, mid game as it becomes fleet commanding, late game is Empire and logistics. Yeah, that's what I heard, honestly. That's what I heard, you know, I've seen the gameplay of the fleet battles. It looks fun. Not helped by the fact that you have 133,000 points. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad I put a cooldown on that, else you motherfuckers would be spamming it. All right, Nolly with the $20 super chat. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
I got Final Liberation on the Warhammer Classic sale. Good stuff there. In thanks for your advice, allow me to share with you, Carnivore. A new tabletop due for release where you play as dinosaurs after the meteor events.
That's okay, I will admit fully, that doesn't sound like it's my speed as a tabletop game, but that's an interesting idea regardless, you know? Like I'm a big fan of the sci-fi war thing on tabletop, but the idea of playing as like dinosaurs competing for food after the meteor apocalypse, that's a cool idea. You get to a point where money is irrelevant because your industry can provide everything you need. Yeah, honestly, I like it when sci-fi autism simulators get like that. I like it when they get like that, where you can legit just take over space. All right, how am I looking in spice right now? Going up, I'm close to 2 stacks. I kind of want to continue scraping at this field though, just because it's, you know, I'm not running around a lot. And hell, I might, who knows, maybe if I do enough activity, I'll reset the field. I'm doing my part. Are you? There's gonna be a major update soon, so hold off stream until it drops. Yeah, I've been reading it. I've been reading up on that. Like they're doing a big update soon. Hey Moadib, how you doing? You doing, little guy? You go off and do your desert mouse thing. I hear a worm out there. But it's not coming for our general area, though, so that should be fine. If so much money in Borderlands ones at death penalties cost me in the millions, it still doesn't make the money counter go down. Oh man, and then there's EVE Online, where getting space rich can be either very difficult or very easy, but I don't have the drive to multi-box. I could multi-box, my rig could handle it, but I don't have the drive to do it. So I remain forever space poor. Space poor at 8 billion ISK, but, you know, yeah. That's just how it be. Move up the line a little bit. Uh-oh. Okay, the worm is back. He is very close, in fact. That was him just now. Hasn't quite found us, though. Quiet night spice harvesting. Yeah, no, I needed the... Like I say, I needed to cool my brain down after that fucking Luetin video, you know? That was so bad. Hey, Whiskey Ginger 07, how you doing? How you doing? We're currently scraping up a spice field, seeing what's new. Trying to get some space cocaine. You know how it is. Oh, yeah, first time chatter too. Okay. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're enjoying yourself. There he go. All right, I'm gonna set down right. You're right behind me. Wait, you're in this spice field right now? Well, like you're in Dune Awakening, like right now? Oh, you're about to go as well. Oh, okay. I thought you were like, you know, the friendly version of a stream sniper, and I was thinking, oh, that's cool. Like stream sniper, but he shows up and says hi and then just leaves. All right, I'm gonna risk going over here. I know you're out there, Shy Halud. I know you're out there. They're hitting me with the danger music. Oh, the music just went away. Okay. Okay, I guess Shy Halud got bored. Right around here? Yeah. Oh, there he is. Yeah, come on, Shy Halud, get it out of your system so I can get back down there. Come on. Yeah, man. I don't see any other spice blows around here. It's just me and these couple of guys. Is Luetin still wrong? Just arrived? Yes. Okay. Okay, Rogel. Let me give you the TLDR of the video. The Imperium got a new thing. He doesn't like that, so he spent an hour crying about it. That's it. That's the video. Like, literally, he's just mad that the Imperium got a new tank, and he's trying to say it's a lore violation that they got a new tank, using all kinds of, like, cope and crying and bitching and moaning. That's really it. I'm not gonna lie, that whole video gave me a fucking headache. It's why I don't like watching people like Luetin to begin with. Because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Big fan of 40K, by the way? Yeah, no, same. Since you're new here, you probably don't know the lore, or the streaming lore. I started streaming as a Black Templar VTuber. And then due to certain people who would very, very, very love the idea of me being sued and knocked off the internet, I had to stop using the avatar. I was never actually sued or C&D'd over it, but I didn't want to risk it either. So I had to change. What is grimderp? Grimderp is when the writing tries super hard to be grimdark, but just egregious and obnoxious about it. Like, it comes off as unbelievable or lore violating, just for the sake of having a grimdark situation. A lot of Imperial fiction written by people who don't like the Imperium is grimderp, because it's trying so hard to make the Imperium evil. It violates common sense in the lore, and it just comes off as bad writing. The general idea of Fulgrim is grimderp. I don't think the general idea of Fulgrim is grimderp. I don't think that. I think the whole, I think the reflection cracked was grimderp. But that wasn't that short story. That short story sucks donkey balls. Uh-oh. That short story sucks donkey balls, and frankly, I can't believe the same guy who wrote the novel Fulgrim wrote it. I think we got off the sand too quick. He isn't even... Oh, wait, here he comes. Okay, Fagoth, I'm gonna ask you to cool it with that kind of talk, okay? Like, whatever you can have your... Oh, okay, first of all, hello, Moo-owned, hello. Yes, there are good guys, but hey, Fagoth, I'm gonna have to delete you to, I have to delete your messages here, and I'm going to ask you to, where do I delete that message? Shit. It's cool, you'll calm down. Yeah, no language like that. No language like that. Okay, I'm gonna put this straight up. I don't know, well, I probably know exactly what you have heard. But I have no problem with trans people. I never have, I never will. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to calm down with that kind of language. I don't know who the hell told, if you thought I did have a problem with them. I don't consider them above, beyond reproach. I will criticize them when they do stupid stuff like anybody, but yeah. Other than salamanders and possibly Grey Knights? No, the Imperium of Man are the good guys in 40K. And it's a very simple formula for why they're the good guys. They are the way they are because the galaxy made them that way. They didn't want to be like that. They got beaten into it. Everyone else had a choice. The Tau had a choice, the Eldar had a choice, the Necrons had a choice. Only the Imperium uniquely did not have a choice in becoming the way they are because the galaxy beat them into that shape. So the Imperium... Oh, Jesus Christ. Excuse me. The Imperium going, okay, fuck you too, and hating everyone back does not make them the bad guys. And I don't know why my restream chatbot is sending that message twice today. Like it's been sending it twice all day, and it's kind of irking me. It's irking my gherkin, if you know what I mean. Now, mind you, the Imperium of Man is still, they're still, by our moral standards, fairly horrible in a lot of the shit they do. But they're also justified in the fact that they do it. That's the major thing. Okay, I'm gonna abandon this field for now. I'm gonna head west. You haven't played Dune since launch, missed anything major. You saw they got PvP servers. Thank you. First of all, Moon-Own, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Crusade. Second of all, okay, they added endgame dungeons, like 4-man endgame dungeons. They're like overland map testing stations that scale in difficulty with the number of players that run them. They added that, and they also split the Deep Desert off into PvE and PvP. This is the PvE Deep Desert right now. So yeah, you don't have to go into the Deep Desert and get ganked anymore. You can just go in, harvest the resources you need, and get out. You know, it's very nice. Yes, I prefer it this way. Okay, for context, I play EVE Online. You know. I do a ton of PvP in EVE Online. I'm a member of you know, the Imperium and EVE Online, one of basically the largest alliance in game, largest nullsec alliance. I do a lot of PvP. The PvP in Dune Awakening is kind of shit, and trying to build the game's future around it was a bad move by Funcom. And I'm genuinely glad they divorced the Deep Desert from PvP. Oh, that's a consumed spice field right there. Wait, you're the events manager at EVE Universe? Wow, okay, hello. Allow me to say thank you for that website. I basically rely on it when doing exploration and security mission content. Yeah, nice to see you here. Nice to have someone famous in the EVE community in my in the EVE player base in my stream. Yeah, thanks for doing that EVE Uni stuff. That shit's great. Because I know my dumbass would never figure it out on his own. That's for sure. Hey, Bo, who do you think wins between Ort in Type Moon and Magladarth, the Void Dragon 40k? Ort, easily. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Ort solos basically anything in 40k. Ort just solos anything in 40k. Like, it's not a contest. Most things in the Nasuverse will win against things from 40k. Like I remember I said that once. I said that any Primarch would lose in a fight to any servant and pissed off a bunch of 40k fans, but yeah, no, the servants are stronger than Primarchs. Thoughts on Ashes of the Imperium? It's basic. Okay, so how do I describe Ashes of the Imperium? Oh, Spice Blow over there. It's a nothing burger of a novel. That's the best way to describe it. In terms of overall impact on the setting, it's a nothing burger. Nothing really important happens in it. But then on top of that, they had a female custodian in it. Female custode in it. So it's basically fan fiction. It's not canon. It was the first novel to have a female custode in it, and as a result, yeah, not canon. I'm gonna go for the medium. You're trying to find novels to buy with your 2 Audible credits, so any recommendations? Have I ever watched any of the 40k animated movies like Kill Lupercal? I have, as a matter of fact. I accidentally got myself a year of Warhammer Plus, never do that. I fat-fingered a month-long subscription and bought a year-long subscription. So, yeah, I watched Kill Lupercal. I watched, the new Sister of Battle one they did. I watched the Tithes. Kill Lupercal was actually pretty good. It felt more like one of the fan animations from a fan cut from a, when they hired a bunch of fan animators and then stopped using them. But it felt like the fan animators made it, in that it felt more like a genuine product. a genuine, story. Things like, say, the Tithes and the Sister of Battle one. The Sister of Battle one pissed me off because I love the Sisters of Battle, right? They're one of my favorite factions. But the Sisters of Battle story on the Penitence on Warhammer Plus was really bad. I didn't like it. What were my thoughts on the Sisters one? It's dog shit. It's actual dog shit. Like you have, like, say, a Sister of Battle, the Sisters of Battle armor failing in the dumbest ways possible just to cause drama in the plot. You have, like, say, power swords that can't cleave through basic orc choppas. You have, like, Sisters of Battle struggling to melee orc boys who they should be able to take on, like, 5-to-1. It's dumb. It's fucking stupid. It's a terrible animation. I don't recommend it. But yeah, Professor Donger, what, it sounds terrible. It is terrible. If you could pirate it, just fucking pirate it. I will say though, Professor Donger, what stories have you not read? Just an off-the-cuff recommendations based on not knowing what you've read. I would recommend Hell's Reach, First and Only, and Hell's Reach, First and Only, and Eisenhorn Xenos. Those are always, if you've never read a 40K novel, those are 3 good novels to read. Here we go. This is a new field. If it sounds like Satan's asshole is talking to you right now, that's me tripping balls in the spice field. I'm literally inhaling space cocaine in the atmosphere. You haven't read Hell's Reach, you're reading First and Only. Oh, fuck. You haven't read Hell's Reach, you're reading First and Only, you're also reading Eisenhorn. You've read some Horus Heresy. Okay, get Hell's Reach. Get Hell's Reach. Did they ever fix the griefing trick people were doing, pushing people's thopters around? They fixed that, yes. They fixed that a long time ago. Yeah, they fixed that a while ago. Uh-oh. No, you know what, Super Jesse, I'm gonna disagree with you on that. I like the Sisters of Battle more as mortals than as super soldiers. It's got that Imperial Guard factor, you know? They're mortal, but their power is their faith, you know? And I like that. It's not just a Space Marine copy. It's why, say female Space Marines wouldn't work, I think, because the Sisters of Battle are cool because they're not created to be super soldiers. Somebody isn't going through the proper procedures to dampen their noise, and I think it's that other guy on the spice field. That's what makes them fantastic. They go so hard in the paint, even though they aren't super. Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh.
A large sandstorm is approaching.
Fuck. Okay, we have 3 minutes to find cover. All right. One more quick grab, and then we're gonna fuck off. Which way is that storm coming from? I can't see it yet. Okay, so we don't know which way it's coming from, so I'm gonna find cover before anything. Actually, how's my inventory looking? You know what? I think I found a good hold for spice right now. I'm gonna head back to base. It's not a full load, but you know what? It's better than nothing. I'll take it. The spice must flow. The spice must flow. This is true. I also don't want to fucking die.
Sandstorm is approaching.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting that sandstorm warning. I don't know where it's coming from. Oh. That's a mushroom cloud. That might be okay, I'm getting greedy. That might be a big spice field. Okay, there's where the storm is coming from. The mushroom-shaped cloud is usually the one that's a big field. What zone am I in? I am in F sector. I don't remember if there's no, I think it's a medium. Shit. Never mind. Okay, the storm is coming from that away. I might be able to make it to... That storm is also right on my ass, so, oh no, that's the big field right there. Okay, you know what then? I'm gonna, hold on. Mark that direction. Turn around. That guy's cramming himself into a hole to save his Thopter. Which I will do the same. Like a glove. Did I check out Dune Prophecy? Yes, and I liked that show. I liked that show. I know there were people that were saying like, oh, it's just woke girl bosses all the time. And I was just like, it's about the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. Of course it's going to be about girl bosses. The Bene Gesserit are girl bosses. And you know what? The show portrays them as absolute bastards for it as well. And, you know, I like that about it. Like, it doesn't pretend they're good people just because, you know, just because they're women. They're the sister battle. They're the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. They're some of the worst people in the Imperium. Not as dry to get into for newbies. Yeah. It's also, like, foundational. Like, it covers foundational stuff for Dune. So, you know, it doesn't just throw you into the deep end. That said, I do think that the Villeneuve films do a good enough job. They do a good enough job easing you in. I absolutely would not say watch part 2 before part 1. Like, what the hell? Okay, here comes that storm.
A large sandstorm is approaching.
I do agree with the fact that the ending of, that was a spice blow. How big a spice blow? I literally can't tell. There's a storm over it. That way, though. Yeah, I think the changes to the ending of part 2 were contentious, but I also think the director just failed at delivering his message of Paul being a bad guy. I'm really excited for part 3. Like, I'm really excited for part 3. And man, that fucking war chant from the trailer goes so unbelievably hard. I would crusade across the stars and murder billions of people to that music. It is such a good theme. I wish I could find it, you know, separate from the trailer, you know, and not like someone trying to do a cover or rip it from the trailer audio, like actual just, you know, the track itself. People thinking Paul's, yeah, the Fremen war chant from the trailer, from the third movie trailer. When it comes to Paul being a good guy, though, I mean, okay. Remember how I said the Imperium are the good guys of 40K and the logic I used to justify it? It's very similar with Paul Atreides and Dune. How wedged in here am I? Oh shit, okay, this is bad. I hope I can get my Thopter out of here. Oh wait, no, I'm doing it. Hold on, I'm doing it. Fuck. It's a very similar logic I'm using, which is that, basically, if Paul hadn't done what he did, you know, if Paul hadn't done what he did and begin setting humanity on the golden path, mankind would have been wiped out. It was Paul and then his son's, you know, actions causing billions of deaths, or the annihilation of a stagnant human race. Those were the options. It was a bad situation, and he and his son legit chose the only best choice they had. A lot of people flying away from the. Why am I getting constant worm sign? Oh, probably because the worm was up. You can't wait to see if they make Worm Boy a thing. I don't know how they're going to handle that, but they're apparently combining books to, you know, they're combining Messiah and Children of Dune into one story, which I can kind of understand why they do that, because Children of Dune is kind of a thin book. And while, you know, Messiah is a very thin book, while Children isn't as thin, it's still thinner than the original book. Oh. I'm wearing the right shoes, yeah? Yeah, I am. Fucking pissed off wormy boy there. Can I explain the spice? Okay, basically, what the spice does. You do lines of it, and you can see you snort lines of it, and you can see the future. The Spacing Guild does this because they can't have AI that let them predict hyperspace travel. But if they snort the spice, they can see the future and know where to guide the ship through a warp jump. That's the spice. That's the purpose of the spice. It also only appears on Arrakis. The entire idea of, like, say, navigators from 40K comes from Dune. It's also worm poop. Oh, you know what? You know what? There's still worm aggro. I'd better not land. It's not as simplistic as we're making it sound. There's a lot of lore to Dune. But that's basically the TLDR version of the spice. Come on, Shai-Hulud, leave us alone. Oh no. He's not leaving us alone. Oh, I just flew past my thopter. Oh, no, 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 no. This is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Get in the thopter, get in the oh my god, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. No, I'm not, no, no, I'm not gonna die, 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 I'm not gonna die. Okay. Alright. Okay. Oh, yeah, he was gunning for me, Jesus. Oh. Okay. Solid dodge, thanks. Thanks, I had it under control. I totally wasn't shitting my pants in, you know, barely contained panic, okay? Come on, worm. What are you waiting for? I want to get down there and grab a little more spice. Like, come on. Come on, man. What is... There it goes. That took forever. Like it was taking abnormally long amount of time to lose worm aggro. He's Madge. He's Madge. I think it's the server lag we've been having, why it's taking him so long. Like, yeah. Hey Chonka, how you doing? Grab that. Doing fine, just playing Trepang 2. I've never played a Trepang game. All I know is that they're FPS games, and apparently rather frenetic. Okay, how's my, you know what, I'm gonna head back to base. I don't have enough for a full, full big spice processor load, but I've got what I consider enough, and I'm fine with that. I'm willing to quit while I'm ahead. Hold on. I'm trying to get the marker off my map that I set. There. Time to fly home. What's my current doing goal? I'm just harvesting shit, relaxing after an obnoxious day of or not day, but evening of watching a Luetin lore video. You got the small or the medium. No, we back at our main base, we've got a large. We've got everything fully built at our base back at our base back at our back in Haga. Like, I'm going to be parking at the at our deep desert, you know, shit box that we built, but, you know, back at Haga, we've got everything. What'd be funny is if a medium blow blew right in front of me. Oh, there's a new one. But, yeah, no, we're heading back. As you said, Luetin is retarded. He is. He is. Like, you know what Luetin's problem is? What I honestly think his problem is? He thinks he's smarter than he really is. You know? He thinks he's smarter than he really is, and he likes to, you know... He likes to pretend he's an absolute authority. Oh, hey, Nolly, thank you for the $5 super chat.
I must go. Dog walking. I'm curious. As nerds, we know most fantasy worlds are absurdly dangerous. Knowing this, what fantasy world would you live in?
What fantasy world would I live in? That's a really good question. I don't really have an answer for that, but you know what? I will buck the trend. For lack of a definite answer immediately, I'll give you this one. I'll give you this one. I'd live in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. But Bohemond, you say, you just be the guy mopping the floor for the Space Marines. It's like, no, I wouldn't. It's a fictional universe. I can be whatever the fuck I want to be in it if I'm going into it. So I say, oh, you think I'd just be the guy mopping the latrines? No, I would become a Space Marine chapter master because I'd just be that fucking awesome. Because it's a make-believe universe, and I can like I wholly reject this whole you don't want to live in 40K thing. It's like, no, I do. Because it's not real. It's not real, and because it's not real, you can be whatever the fuck you want to be in it. I really hate this kind of weird attitude, like, oh, you have to be ironic about your enjoyment of something. No, I fucking don't. No, I fucking don't. I don't gotta be ironic about shit. Be ironic about it? No, I will give my full unfiltered dog shit opinion, which in this case is I would live in 40K, unironically. Let's park the... There we go. This girl's getting thirsty. Let's fuel her up. There we go. All right, let's get that. Let's get all that in the box. Oh, that's I think it's Pascal's stuff. Oh, I think he put it in there so he doesn't fucking, die. Or so if he dies, he doesn't lose everything. You know what? Understandable maneuver. Understandable. Hold on. Beginning of a good haul this week. There we go. Alrighty, you know what, everyone? Hold the fuck up. Everyone hold the fuck up real quick. We're gonna move this over here. Right, give me a moment. Shut up, phone, you're drunk. All right, you know what? Discordia is playing Battlefield 6, so I'm just gonna send y'all to watch him. Hang on. Alrighty. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know what I'll be doing. I will figure that out, as I go along. Yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you all. I'll catch you all. I'll catch you all tomorrow, 7 p.m. Yeah, have a good evening, everyone, and take care. Later.